dakika. Son 1 dakika. 1 minute. 1 minute for the start. Sayımı az sonra Elit atletler içinde İngilizce gerçekleştirecek. The countdown will be in about 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Yaklaşık 30 saniye sonra Elit sayımı gerçekleştirecek. Ve saat 9'da ve işte şimdi geri sayım için hazırız. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. İşte startı verildi. Vodafone 41. İstanbul Maratonu'nun büyük bir coşkuyla, büyük bir heyecanla binlerce sporcu koşuyor bir kez daha. Bir kıtadan diğerine, Asya'dan Avrupa'ya. İşte bu Vodafone 41. İstanbul Maratonu.
Hello and welcome to the 41st running of the Vodafone Istanbul Marathon. We are now 3 minutes into the start of the race as the runners start across the 15 July Martyrs Bridge. We're here to usher you through the next 42 kilometres of action, and we'll be on hand to show you along the course through some of the most iconic settings in this beautiful city as we go through the only marathon that crosses 2 continents and sees some of what Istanbul has to offer. Just a brief rundown of what you can expect over the next course, say over the next 2.5 hours. This is an IAAF Gold Label race, which has been raced along these streets since 1978. Today we'll see around 37,000 runners from 106 countries taking part in various events. As you can see, the men's elite runners have kicked off already, and the favourites obviously striding out ahead of anyone. We'll see various people along the course, the 5k, the 15k, the fun run, which could see as many as 100,000 people on the streets here in Istanbul. There's a wheelchair race that was underway about 15 to 20 minutes ago, already across the Bosphorus Bridge there. As you can see, the beautiful Bosphorus Strait. We'll see the streets swell as we get to a more residential area, as people come out to see some of the best runners in athletics' toughest event. This year's motto is "Istanbul is yours, don't stop, run." So we're already seeing that from a group of athletes in a rather cold morning. 10 degrees to start the day, but a beautiful sunny day here in Istanbul. There was a bit of worry earlier in the week with some rain around and some storms, but that's cleared away for a perfect side of the Bosphorus Strait there. Obviously the 3 Bosphorus bridges crossing, and then a little side of one of the palaces there. The runners will make their way across the bridge, from there, which they will carry up through the district of Shishli, down Barbaros Boulevard into Beşiktaş, and basically from there along the way, along the water, from there across through the Karaköy district over the Galata Bridge and through all the way to the, I guess, the old airport in the Bakırköy Ataköy region, and back again to finish in Sultanahmet, just on the steps of between the Blue Mosque and the Hagia Sophia. So we're seeing here the favourites already making sort of a pace as they get along. A little information of some of the runners here. We have last year's carryover champion, Felix Kimitay, who set the course record last year. He will expect to come back again and do the same again. We have in the female event, last year's winner is not here, but she went on and used this actually as a platform to win this year's World Championships in that famous race in Doha, where plenty of the runners were a bit under the weather from the heats, but no worries of that today. So let's finish up our stretches, let's catch our breath, and my fellow commentator today is Talha Duman, who will help us get underway.
Thank you, Lachlan. As you can see on the screen, the route that'll be for this year's race will finish up at Sultanahmet, but as you can see, we'll be going through quite a lot of historical places in Istanbul, quite the city for history. You got your Çırağan Saray, Dolmabahçe Saray, Vodafone Park, the home of Beşiktaş, all the way down to Galata Kulesi. And then we'll be, updating you on the times of each and every athlete as much as possible, especially the elite athletes. Then we go up to Topkapı Sarayı, Sultanahmet Camii, the mosque, the Blue Mosque. And this stretch is a little bit more one of the flattest areas of Istanbul, actually. As a city known as, with 7 hills, it's pretty hard to find a place that runners can actually run without getting exhausted most of the way. And as you can see, that's where the old airport used to be. They built a new 3rd one, which is operational, the biggest in Europe. And then after 25 kilometers, they'll be turning right back up, going the exact opposite way, and they'll try to do their best to stand out for 42 kilometers. Hardest feat in running, basically.
Yeah, that's right. It's a real tactical game early on to set your pace and try to maintain your energy throughout. They don't want to set off a pace they can't maintain, and the pursuits of Eliud Kipchoge recently trying to get across the 2-hour mark is a testament to that the pace they'll have to set and pace they'll have to maintain, they'll have to keep their energy as they get water and energy along the way. As we're seeing them, we'll see the split times as they separate themselves between the pack, and as they grow from there, they're now just heading on a bit of an incline. Now, there's an interesting element to this, that they will run uphill slightly at the start as they sort of, I guess, set their pace and start to go, but then they will head downhill as a way of equalising that. There's a bit of a rule there from the IAAF that you can't have too much of an incline or too much of a decline. They think it's a bit of an easy task if the runners are running downhill the whole time. So these guys will head up. I mean, this is primarily usually just chocked full of traffic and cars most days a week, so it's
Every
quite
morning,
nice.
every day.
And that's the valleys of Ortaköy there. That's actually one of my old houses just over there. So you can wave at my new tenants. But you can see them now just stretching out and really just trying to sort of feel the race in their legs and get used to the asphalt as well, and just get used to the race. And you know, one of the major problems here of marathon running is, you know, every morning you wake up different, and you may not necessarily be as comfortable as you hope, and they'll be sort of stretching out and really just trying to get used to themselves, and it's a long old time. So if they want to break a record, they'll have to be done in the next hour and 50 minutes, but you know, we're probably looking at around just over 2 hours for the winners here, and hopefully we can see a bit of history.
Well, according to Helmut Winter's timing, he'll be timing the whole event today. The first 2 kilometers were run in about 6 minutes, with each kilometer lasting about 3:01, 2:59. And according to his projected pace, we can expect a possible course record for this time around.
Yes, obviously the course record set last year by Felix Kumatai, 2:09.57. His personal best is 2:09.23, which was set earlier this year in China, in fact. So he is in form. He's not the best or the fastest. We can say he's the best because he's the reigning champion, but not the fastest runner this year. Atnafu Zeruhun from Ethiopia has run a 2:07 when he was in Paris in April. That was, April last year, April of 2018. This year he returned to Paris in a time of 2:08.31 to win that marathon. So he's probably the fastest runner on the field as of today.
That's true. And now we're pushing to 11 minutes. As you can see, marathon running, as the famous Ed Caesar, author of 2 Hours, a book about running a marathon under 2 hours, says marathon runners by default must have resilient minds. And now we're only about 2-3 kilometers in, but you can already see that runners have to get through it with as much mental toughness as they can.
Yeah, that first 5 kilometres or those first 3 miles, depending if you go with the old scale, it will feel slow for the runners, but I mean, these guys have been training all their life for this exact purpose. They'll have the pace setters who'll help them sort of feel themselves into the race as they sort of develop their, I guess, their game tactics or their race tactics as how they want to run this race. You know, no marathon is run and won in the first sort of, I guess, even the first 30 kilometres. It's that sort of clutch time at the end when runners really have to, you know, feel the confidence to actually run out and take the race head on. Obviously the end is going to be the fascinating part, when who can hold on, who can do whatever they can. But I mean, if you look at the Kipchoge split times for what he did in Vienna, and obviously it's not an IAAF ratified event, but he ran his first 5 kilometres in 14 minutes. So we're now at 9 minutes for the first 3 kilometres of the runners, but effectively they're slowly making their time and their way through, and they'll hopefully, for their own sake, be able to see it all the way out. There's been a few runners recently who, I mean, in the World Championships only a couple of months ago, who couldn't finish due to the weather, but this is probably perfect weather for running today. As you can see, some of the athletes going along the Bosphorus, the roller skaters actually, so they'll probably get there in a little quicker time than most runners. I'm sure I'd prefer doing that myself as well.
Well, you talked about the weather, Lachlan, a bit. It's now 11 degrees, and you know, although you saw at the starting line that a lot of people seemed kind of cold, this kind of weather, as they get more into the pace and into their strides, will actually feel like t-shirt weather as they go along.
Yes, that's right. Look, if this was run maybe 2 months ago or something like that, you would have had temperatures in the high 30s, which, you know, some people may want to run in that temperature, but that's what will destroy people at the back end of their race. As you can see, these guys already looking like they haven't even raised a sweat yet. Well, I wouldn't probably be able to handle the first 13 minutes, so not too bad a start.
13 minutes, and just an update on the splits. Now, we don't have an official time for the 5 kilometer official times, but according to Mr. Winter's timing, the first 4 kilometers were run in about 12 minutes and 12 seconds, and that's projected for still a course record for 2:08.43.
Yeah, as we can see, the leaders there, Cosmas Birec so far, the Kenyan, the 34-year-old, he's leading the pack at the moment. His 2:08.03 in Rome last year was his personal best. He's just checking the time now. They're just checking the time now as well. Just feeling their way, just checking their splits as they head down past Yildiz Park there, the entrance to it. Again, usually filled with traffic, Talha, but today it looks great. Today they're really striding out. This is the downhill part, which I think is a 75-meter decline, or as they head down the hill.
Yeah, well, as you said, these are one of the more faster parts of the course because they're going downhill towards sea level after starting 78 meters on the Bosphorus Bridge, the first bridge. As we continue, this will be a little bit more where the runners' minds will be tested, their resilience, their psychology, how they cope with the increasing lactic acid levels in their legs, if they feel any, of course. Wow, that's honestly very interesting to see without any cars, especially at this time in the morning.
That's right, most people in Istanbul don't usually get up on a Sunday well after this race is probably even finished, so maybe in a couple of hours those restaurants and cafes will start to fill up, maybe a few people getting a shock as they see a few spectators. Now we have our first 5-kilometre split. As we go through, we have 14:59, I apologise. Moses Kemai from Kenya leading the race so far. Obviously not going to mean too much too early on in that sort of first group with Daniel Kibet and Peter Robo, Cosmas Birec also just clocking in at 15:01. So they're setting a decent pace so far, probably not world record, as we see the mums and dads and the sort of people trying to tick off their bucket list item getting underway here at the Istanbul Marathon. I know a few of our friends, Talha, have set off this morning, and some maybe not as well trained as your Felix Kumatais, but they're doing their very best, and you know, heaven loves a trier. So as they kick off, these people have been training all the way through the winter, the summer, just to get one bite at such an iconic marathon. Expected, as I said earlier, over 100,000 people on the streets today of all different shapes and sizes. So that's the main thing, is people just getting out and enjoying themselves. Ekrem İmamoğlu, the mayor of Istanbul, has wished success to all the athletes, and he'll be hoping that he can get a world record on his hands, because this would make something special. It may not happen. The 15Kers probably finishing about the same time as some of these lead runners in the marathon will finish as well. So good luck to them all.
Well, as you said, you know, on one side we have the 42K, on the other we have 15K. The course is relatively the same up until that point. And I mean, in terms of a marathon like this, where, you know, people that live in Istanbul only get one chance every year to cross the Bosphorus Bridge on foot, either running or walking, it's really spectacular to see, especially with those scenes on the right there.
That's right. The view you get, seen it many times from taxis and cars away across the bridge, you get to see effectively down to Sultanahmet, where we are right now, where you get to see, you know, your Topkapi palaces, all the way down the Maiden's Tower, sitting in the middle of the water there, both sides, both Europe and Asia. It's a once-in-a-lifetime experience for a lot of these runners who have come up from across the world. I think we've got over 100 countries represented today, 4,000 running the 42K, and thousands more running the 15K and the fun run. People just really just getting out in their streets to see what they can see. You know, you see all the way down, if you follow those waters down to the south, you get down to the Greek islands, up to the north you get to Crimea. So not only just a beautiful sight, but also the history and the iconic sculptures and structures that we see along the way.
What's even more amazing is that, you know, even though on one side we're watching elite runners trying to set paces worthy of Olympic contention, but at the same time, you know, it doesn't really matter if you're elite or not. This is a journey. This is a journey that you've been working for throughout the year, maybe a couple years, and everyone's story is different. Everyone, you know, finishes at the finish line, obviously, but it's a very unique kind of way that they get there. You know, either it be personal stories or the way they got into running, either for health benefit or for charity. So as with most marathons, you get that kind of magical feeling of people doing this for a certain reason, and that kind of gets you to watch it.
That's exactly it. Look, we've seen some stories of runners coming from Scotland to raise money for, you know, such an iconic marathon, to raise money for their local communities so they can help with the excavation of historical sites in northern Scotland. I've been reading that on the internet. We're seeing people moving from around the world trying to just see something special. And that's the thing as well with the runners, the elite runners. Of course, they'll be focused on, you know, getting the prize money, getting the win, getting their best time, getting a season best time, anything. But that gives them an opportunity to take a look around every so often and take in what they're looking at. These are runners from around the world who this is their job, this is their day-to-day work, and you know, don't they look great for it? Now they're just coming up to the approaches to the Dolmabahce Palace. There you can see the Vodafone Stadium, the Vodafone Arena, the football stadium which Besiktas, the Super Eagles play. The UEFA Super Cup was played there just recently between Chelsea and Liverpool, packed out with around 50,000 fans. Besiktas playing last night away in Antalyaspor, I believe, so no chance there of running into some hooligans. But there's another mosque there that sits opposite the stadium. It sits on the shores of the Bosphorus, and one of a few mosques of a similar design. There's another one in Ortaköy which we've gone over. You may have seen from the view of the bridge, which as they run down now into, I guess, the district of Karaköy and Cihangir, which is slightly up the hill from it, sort of at the lower end of Taksim. If you're looking on your Google Maps, there's the Naval Museum or the Maritime Museum there. As they head along, that's a new production or new construction, sorry, of the Kabatash ferry terminal there, which will, I think, is supposed to look like a sea eagle or a seafaring bird, let's call it.
That's what they've been saying, yeah. Currently in the lead for the men's side, we have Edwin Kipto from Kenya, followed by Moses Keme. And when you look at the time splits, after that steep decline from the bridge now down to sea level, they're being projected to finish at 2:06:09, which is a track record. But obviously, we have that long slug of flat asphalt all the way down to Yenikapı and past those places. And you know, you never know. Maybe they'll continue on this pace. Maybe they'll fall down. Eager to see what happens in the next 2 hours.
That's right, yeah, they're pretty much flat from now until they get up to Sultanahmet, where they have a bit of an incline. The last quarter mile, I believe, is a bit of a hill up. So they'll be thankful for that little downhill bit there, as we see one of those sea eagles they've designed the Kabatash ferry terminal on, nearly taking out the cameraman there. So again, the Bosphorus Bridge, there's that Ortaköy Mosque that I was speaking of, Chiran Palace there. The Ortaköy region, known for its little cafes, a bit of nightlife if you're interested. And down there you can see the Bosphorus Straits, some of the palaces along there as well. Truly some of the most iconic parts of the city, sitting right there on the Bosphorus, and your flash hotels as well. Some more runners now coming past the Besiktas Stadium. Obviously Vodafone, the name sponsor of the marathon here and of the stadium itself, so a nice little plug for them as we see the runners make their way effectively past the Kabatash tram stop effectively, which is probably not as full this morning, but it's on its way now, and the runners really just feeling their way into the race as they make their way on the long straight road to the old airport.
Well, when you look at everyone's journey, as I was talking before, you have people in wheelchairs, you have people running the 42K, 15K, the fun run, the 8K. You know, it's for Istanbul people, this is once in a lifetime kind of experience. And the more they run, actually, I've heard from friends, the more they compete in marathons or like 15K runs like these, the more you want to come back, and the more you want to see the city in a very kind of deserted way, which is weird, obviously, but I mean, just that view. People say that you don't really feel the kind of the big crowds, that when you're in it, you don't really realize that it's like a lot of people. I mean, you're thinking, can I get to the end? Will I finish? Do I know the way? Will I get lost? Obviously, for the runs you see right now, that's not a big problem. Yeah, so it's an experience that every person out of these hundreds of thousands of people will have.
Yeah, look, that's right. And as these sort of professional, let's call them elite runners, because that's exactly what they are, they're now sort of creeping their pace up towards where they want to be. They know they've done the I guess the variable work of going up and down a hill. They're now sort of feeling their way into the race, and they can sort of just start to tick over and conserve their energy and get the water on board, because that's a necessary thing as well. You may think, oh, you know, I've got so long to go, I don't want to get filled up, and but they'll need to take on their water, they'll need to take on their energy, and they'll need to just sort of feel themselves into this race as they continue to sort of work not necessarily just on the physical aspect, because they've done the training, they know that what they're doing. So many of them have done so many of these before, but it's the mental aspect. Again, as I said earlier, the courage to take the race by the scruff of the neck and really just make it yours. And if you want to win a course record, if you want to win, there's 50,000 reasons why you would want to win this race. That's the top prize money there for the winners.
I mean, if you were able to do something like this, you'd obviously go for the big money, wouldn't you?
Well, exactly, and it's not just the prize money for the winners, which will get them 50 large. If they set a course record or a world record, they'll get another lump on top of that. So any win for both the men and the women will get them $50,000. Second place will get them 25. 15,000 for the bronze, and from there 7, 5, 3, 2 and 1,000 for the rest of the top 8 in both the men's and the women's. If you get a 2:08.59, which is a pretty decent effort, that's another 10 large for you. So, and 2:24.59 for the women. So there is plenty of motivation. Obviously, they're not doing it just for that. There's quite a few other reasons as well, and just personal bests for these guys. They train their whole life to edge closer and closer. I guess partly to that 2-hour goal, but you know, there's enough motivation in it for these guys.
Well, you were talking about records. I mean, there's always the fact that running under 2 hours was, until recently, seemed impossible. I mean, when you look back at the first marathon winners, you know. Even people thought women couldn't run under a certain amount of time. They've been doing that. With the example of Kipchoge, he's done a marathon under 2 hours. So, you know, he hasn't done it under official terms, obviously. But still, 2 hours is 2 hours. And again, to quote Ed Caesar, I mean, the fact that the current world record is 2:01.39 for runners, that 1 minute and 39 time is, you know, for most it seems like a long commercial break. It could even be like the time you soft boil an egg. I mean, for them, 1:39 is a lifetime. You know.
That's exactly it. The timing. It's one of, you know, man's final frontiers, let's call it, in terms of athletics. You know, we have the 4-minute mile that was Roger Bannister's a long time ago. We had, you know, the 10-second 100, which was broken in the 60s, and this is the one that's really held out for such a long time. Obviously, Kipchoge, as I said earlier, his world record time of 1:59.40 has not been ratified officially by the IAAF due to a little bit of assistance, let's call it, by pacemakers, a few laser lights helping him along the way, but effectively, you know, man has broken through that, and of course that's going to be a helping hand for these runners as they make their way now onto the Galata Bridge. Obviously, the Galata Bridge is one of the more significant sites, not only for those keen tourists, but also those keen on a fish sandwich, well known for its fishermen in the area. The seagulls are probably the most regular beneficiaries of the odd fish sandwich, and as we head over into the old city now, some of the most iconic shots there. I know for me, I'll never forget the first time I saw the Istanbul ferries pulling out of Eminonu stop there. It's an absolute sight to behold as they head across the Galata Bridge. And Talar, tell us a little bit about the bridge, mate.
Well, as you were saying, in every inch of Istanbul there's history. I mean, the Galata Bridge, as most would know, people that live in Istanbul, was built in the 19th century, and it's still as it stands until today. I mean, you have world-class runners running through it, running on it. It was, as told, built in the 19th century. It's been featured in Turkish literature, theater, poetry, novels. So it's not only for the marathon that it gets, you know, realized, but for ages, for centuries, it's been one of the forefronts of what Istanbul really is. One of the parts of Istanbul that, you know, makes it Istanbul. if that makes sense.
That's right, yeah. Look, they'll have to watch out as well. Maybe some of those old fishermen will be a bit angry that they've missed out on their fishing spot. And October and November is a huge time for catching the bluefish coming down the Bosphorus Strait there. So the guys will be missing out on their Sunday morning fishing ritual, but they get a sight of a different kind. A couple of world-class athletes dotting past their usual fishing spot.
But, you know, as with marathon running, we're not really sure if they would know them. That's the only
That's
problem.
exactly it.
With we were talking about the world record just now, not to burn out topics too quick, but
a long time to go yet, Talha.
Yeah, we still have 2 hours. Again, you can see Eminönü right there, one of the more famous squares in Istanbul. Gets really packed during weekends, especially.
That's right. The Spice Bazaar just in there behind the Eminönü district. If you're looking for a nice Turkish delight, that's the place to be. I've been recommended a few great places by a few locals. So. Again, the Bosphorus Bridge there, the fun runners might need a bit of that Turkish delight later on as they run out of a bit of energy.
Well, something interesting you just saw there, the sides of the bridge were squared off. That's so when most people go on the run for the marathon in the first couple of years, they saw people, especially with the invent of selfies and whatever, they saw people stopping on the bridge and taking selfies. So that's why it's barged off.
Doing it all for the gram, that's what it is.
Exactly.
That's what's important.
Not for these runners.
Not for these runners.
No.
They might do it afterwards, maybe with a gold medal around their necks. But these guys just have no time but to run. That's what they're made for. They're machines. You know, whatever they can do. A lot of these runners, if you read the mythology of Kenyan and Ethiopian, East African running, is a lot of these guys don't even need the shoes. You know, this woman's got a set of fluffy ears on. I don't know if that's going to break a world record, but whatever gets you over the line, I guess.
Again, magnificent kind of views. That's the Topkapi Palace.
That's right.
The palace that was constructed after the Ottoman Empire conquered Constantinople, now known as Istanbul. And I see the runners getting that water we talked about. One of the most important part of the race is, you know, actually keeping after yourself. And at about 10 kilometers in now, they're projected, with Fetene Alamu Regasa in the lead, they're projected to finish at about 2:07:22. But we'll see. That keeps changing on.
There's the Vodafone Park again. Obviously, I think Turkey recently won a game over, I believe it was Andorra or Moldova. One of the two in their Euro qualifying group. Next month they'll take on Iceland at the Galatasaray Stadium, which is up the northern part of the city, and if they win that, they'll be through to next year's European Championships. So that'll put people back out on the streets, and I don't know if they'll be running that night, but we'll see how we go. There's the Topkapi Palace, as you said, Talar, another one of Istanbul's most famous tourist sites. All sorts of goods and chattels in the museum there, and also a great view again for your selfies if you're trying to get one of those. But I know you've been guilty of a few of those in your time, Talar.
Just a couple.
There's the Bosphorus Strait, as you see the Asian side over the other side, the Karakoy area, another great area for let's say a night out, a good fish sandwich down by the water as you sort of watch the world go by and the sunset behind Sultanahmet, one of the most iconic shots in the city. Now we're starting to see some of the Turkish athletes get over the line, and we're seeing primarily the males, Hussein Can, Bekir Karayel, making their way across the course. Now Turkish athletes haven't won this race for a while. Obviously the first couple of years they were running and hoping for the best, but the usual way it is in global marathons now, that you have your heavyweights, let's call them, the Ethiopians, the Kenyans, Eastern African athletes that are running and setting world records both in the men's and the women's.
It's truly amazing. I mean, to touch on the Turkish aspect of things, as we see the Turkish flag in the pictures there, the first foreigner to actually win it was Ian Thompson back in 1983, and the last Turkish athlete to win was Serap Aktaş, who was an Olympic runner who competed for Turkey in various Olympic Games, 1996 and 2000. but wasn't able to win a medal. So since 1994, no Turkish winners.
That's right, but look, if we have a quick little look there, we see again some of the Constantinople walls as the guys make their way around the Bosphorus there. Amazingly, you'll never believe it, but they're still there since the 1400s when they were built back in the days of the Crusades. So every inch of this city has a bit of history. I don't know how they get their construction work done, but every time they dig up, they find a new century, a new civilization. It's incredible to see. And I'm sure these guys will be having a look around every so often as they try and sort of also enjoy themselves as opposed to just making their way and not even looking at it.
Again, when we look at the splits with especially with the elite runners on our screen right now, they're still projected to finish under the course record, which was, as we should remind you, 2:09:57. Currently projected for 2:07:50. So with this flat area, if they keep their pace, we could see back-to-back years of back-to-back records for the track.
That's it. There's another city shot there for you. A couple of ferries making their way under the bridge. As there's the Karakoy region of the city, down the Golden Horn, the old site, I guess. The Galata Bridge is the old site of where they used to keep the chains across so the boats couldn't get through.
Yes.
Another historical tidbit for you there. The Golden Horn running down to the area of Hullitch, the Transport Museum down there, quite a little site for if you're a bit of a car nerd. There's quite a few things down there, a couple of aeroplanes, good for a little Sunday afternoon. Maybe after the race, me and you can go down there, Talha.
Yeah, why not? I mean, in Istanbul, you have everything. I mean, with a city full of 20 million people unofficially, there's everything for everyone. And especially for these elite runners, I think there could be a world record on the books today.
Well, let's hope so. We can only hope.
Not to speak early, yeah.
Yes, a little bit early. I don't know if you're going to run out by 42 kilometres. Maybe you'll be asleep under the desk. Let's see. Now 35 minutes into it so far. We're sort of at the 11-12 minute mark. They're still on track for about 2 hours 7 minutes as they make their way along. I think these guys on the right hand side here, the 15k is getting underway. Not quite at world record pace there.
No, certainly not.
Yes, they might be legends in their own lunchtime, but they're out there having a bit of fun. 100,000 people on the streets today will be quite a sight, locking down the city, people making their way through town. And, you know, usually they'd be sitting there, as I said, a million times over, but I can't stress it enough. Plenty of traffic to sit there and watch through on a Monday to Friday,
yes.
planning their run, planning their way across the course. Guys who are making a little salute there, trying to salute the camera, getting their own little piece of fame. City decked out in Turkish flags. Obviously, it was the Republic Day only last week.
Yes.
The city, you know, that Bosphorus was turned red and white and gold in huge fireworks display that, you know, sounded, so you could hear across the city. As the guys make their way across, they might be making some fireworks of their own as they head along the road. They're making their way now around the Sultanahmet area, the old city, up to their right hand side. So they're making their way now across I guess it's the Kennedy Boulevard, I think it's referred to as.
Yes.
Which I don't know who it's named after, but maybe you could fill me in, Teller.
Maybe.
You can only guess, mate.
Yeah,
You can only guess. Okay, Edwin Kipto, still in the lead there. He's just sort of running that lead pack as they sort
Along with pacemakers, of course.
Yes, the pacemakers will be helping their way along. Now, pacemakers are a bit of a, let's not say a dirty word, but maybe not the IAAF's favourite thing, but you do need that. You need people, and effectively the pacemaker will keep you at a certain time. They will run a certain pace. They will lead you along. They will help those runners really just maintain it. You know, this is as much a mental thing as it is as a physical thing. These runners know how to run. They've done it their whole lives. They've done the meters. They've done the hard yards. You know, this is the way they do it, but they do need, there is a requirement just to get them into that physical process of continually running. Just keep going, how not to slow down, how not to tell your legs to keep going effectively, because otherwise the mind can play tricks, and that's what most first-time marathon runners will tell you, is that after 10 kilometres, if you can make it through 10 to 15 kilometres, you can make it anywhere. So they're just making their way along there. The guy on the motorbike's probably got an easier time of it himself. as the guys make their way around alongside the water. A nice little view of the seagulls and the tanker ships coming their way into the port and working their way along the old city as they head down to the old Atakoi region to make their way back at the 25-kilometer mark.
Just watching them right now, you could almost say the peak of human physicality. I mean, we're 12 kilometers in, 30 left, and as a person who doesn't really run long distances, you can't really imagine what it takes to do this.
Well, that's exactly it. These guys will be sort of telling their legs no, telling their mind that they can keep going. You know, the pace setter there on the left-hand side in the blue and the orange, he's got an easy job of it. He only has to do a couple of Ks and then he can drop out. He may finish as well. Pace setters obviously can continue, yes. And the roller skaters can do as they please, it seems, on the roads today. They're probably a rare sighting.
They're having the most fun.
Yeah, they're having the easiest time of it as they roller derby their way to... I'm not sure if it's an Olympic IOC ratified event, the old roller skate marathon, but each to their own, I guess, and why not enjoy it while you get the time? You won't get too many other opportunities apart from the Istanbul half marathon, which runs over probably, you know, April, May sort of area, I believe, just before the summertime kicks in. So those roller skaters getting their time in the sun and a little bit of time on camera, you know, just obviously can write home to their mums about it, about the time that they ran the Istanbul marathon.
Well, rolled, yeah.
It rolled their way. Yeah, a couple of supporters getting out now, starting to make their way along to the course. Here we have another, the starter's pistol about to go off again.
And again, thousands of, oh, that was from the start, just
there we
now.
go.
Yeah, when the race began. I mean, they're saying hundreds of thousands of people will be on the course, not necessarily just for the 42K, but it's, as I said, I can't emphasize this enough. It's once in a lifetime. I mean, when you look at how marathon runners train every year, they're generally compete in 2 marathons every year, and they build themselves up to each one. You know, according to how the course is, if there's an incline, a decline, how long the flat spaces are, and it's. I mean, there's a point to this, obviously, with the Istanbul Marathon being a gold label race by the IAAF, and according to some rules, if they finish in the top 5, they could go to the Olympics.
And that's exactly it. These guys will be setting their sights. Obviously, we've got the big time marathons, the New Yorks, the Bostons, those sort of ones that take most of the headlines. But the reality is, Olympic qualification is on hand if they can not just finish in the top 5, but make their way into even a course record. The Olympic Games next year is obviously the key to any athlete, no matter what sport it is. May not get it for commentary, but at least we're trying our best here, and that's the main thing. If these guys can make their way all the way to Tokyo, or at least Sapporo, where the Olympic marathon will be next year, they could have, the dream of a lifetime. We've got a few runners in the field that have spent time at the Olympic Games, but everyone wants to get back there, and you don't get many opportunities to do that. So top 5 finish today could really make a dream come true for a couple of these people.
As we can see, the Galata Bridge, most of the 15K runners are probably making their way through.
Yeah, getting their way down there now. Now, a little update on the women's race. They're a little bit behind the men's, but that doesn't make them any less significant. Obviously, you've got some world-class athletes. Veselin Jepkesho, the Kenyan, she's 15th, or she ran 15th in the World Championships in 2009. Now, she's got a bit of a record outside of those major championships. She's finished in the top 4 of all of her marathons to date. Now, she contested at the World Champs 5 weeks ago, or a couple of weeks ago, I apologise, finishing 15th in about 2 hours 46 minutes 38 seconds. So she may not be at her freshest on Sunday. And as you said earlier, Talha, the 2 marathons a year they try and sort of put into their legs. Obviously, $50,000 will be enough of an encouragement to get them through or get them over the line. But obviously, that's an important thing to remember, that this isn't necessarily the only marathon they will run. This isn't a once-in-a-lifetime thing. This is a career. This is an opportunity for them to keep the process, ramp up on the way to the Olympic Games or the Olympic Game trials and get those timings over the top. Because, look, let's remember that for the women's there's the 2 hour 29:30 is the qualification for the Olympic Games next year in the Olympic Games next year in Tokyo, and for the men's 2 hours 11 minutes 30. So
in any of the gold standard races.
That's right, in any of the gold standard races. But obviously in the women's event, we have a record here of last year, which was 2 hours 18:35 by, well, the world champion now, the Kenyan Ruth Chepnyet. Sorry, I apologise to her out there. I'm sure she's watching. But Ruth Chepngetich, she's the world champion now, but obviously the 2018 Istanbul Marathon was what put her on the course to that. Not here today, but the women's and racing women getting through. Fatima Sado, the Ethiopian runner, she's a winner so far this year in the Osaka Marathon, so she's got a bit of a record in Japan.
And
so
that was her best time too.
That's exactly right.
2:25:39.
2:25:39, taking her to her win. She's got a bit of an interesting story. She's an Ethiopian, grew up at an elevation of 2,350, which probably help any marathon runner, a bit of lung capacity there. Encouraged to move to Addis Ababa, the capital there, and her career helping her out there. An absolute gem of a site there, the Hagia Sophia, the iconic, I guess the icon of Istanbul. It's in the local government's emblem. It's everywhere. It's one of the true sights of the world, probably one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world at least. And the runners probably won't get too much time to have a look, but maybe afterwards they can. Maybe we can sort them out with a free ticket.
Well, they finish here, right, on the Hagia Sophia and against Sultanahmet, the Blue Mosque, and in about 90 minutes or so.
That's right.
We may see them.
We may see them.
And they may see Hagia Sophia.
That's right, and those sort of things would really spur them on as they come up that hill through the Gulhane area, Sikeji, up the hill to Sultanahmet, just to really drive them over the top. Those iconic sites that give them a spur, that give them that last little push. They know that once they get to that site, that's the finish line. They're just on the home straight from there, a couple of 100 metres to go from there, and they can drive them over the top. So not only is it iconic for the millions of people that come to Istanbul every year, but iconic for these guys in the fact that they know once they get there, they're a couple of 100 metres away as they run down the last straight, which is in the old Hippodrome. No horses here today, but the old Hippodrome, which is another iconic scene, the Egyptian obelisk, as you said, the Blue Mosque. These are the things they'll be running toward at the end. So again, obviously iconic. Tourists love it. Thousands or millions of tourists a year. I've been there myself nearly 10 times in my life. So it is one of the beautiful sights, and maybe not so beautiful, but equally as effective as the roads of Istanbul, which obviously improving all the time. Maybe decades ago, let's say, they probably weren't the best, but these guys need to have the best asphalt to run on, and that's one of the IAAF regulations. The walls of Istanbul, as we mentioned a little earlier, is all around the city. Just you can be walking down a street and a part of an old Byzantine wall will appear. It's one of the another little charming little bit that in this city. The neighbourhoods, you can just appear in the middle of nowhere. Some of the towers falling in slightly, some of the towers looking like they were built yesterday, others looking, let's say, a little dated. Could do with a bit of tender and love and care and a touch-up, but no DIY people for the walls of Istanbul, but hugely iconic. I think some people even living in there because they love it so much. So it's one of the sights of the city.
Well, as the runners get a little bit more water into their system. Let's talk a little bit about that standard you were talking about of the roads, of the asphalt, and how the IAAF wants specific standards for their gold races, their gold class races. I mean, first and foremost, obviously, as you can see, it needs to be closed to traffic. Runners would probably not be able to make that time if they were, you know, afraid of cars and dodging cars and all throughout. As you can see, runners continue to cross the line, cross the start line, go into their races, maybe 15K, 8K, or even a fun run. And as with the beginning, it was all about getting it started, getting the fun started.
Yeah, the Turkish flag is obviously pretty present across the city. You can see it everywhere, but a few more thousand there of really getting a bit of national pride in, because it is a way to show off their city and show off where they live, and show the world that some of the bad press that's been about here recently doesn't necessarily affect the people who live here day to day, and this is their city. And I've noticed every time I'm in this city how proud the people are of where they're from, and they love to show it off. They love to show people what they can offer, you know, whether it be hospitality, whether it's you know, food, tea, coffee, everything. They have their own version and they want to show it off. So this is the opportunity for those guys not only to show it off, to bring some friends from across the world and say, you know, let's have a little walk along the Bosphorus and maybe get a bit of a sweat on as well. And
as you can see, we'll update on the times right now. Now, according to, again, unofficial timings, 16 kilometers have been done of about 48 minutes, 27 seconds, and that's projected to go for 2 hours, 7 minutes and 45 seconds, just about under the course record. But you never know, there's still that incline that we talked about right at the Blue Mosque, right towards the end of the race, which can always, you know, make or break your race here in Istanbul. As you can see, Hiro Tubabu is leading in the women, and for the men's, they've still got a way to go, at least an hour, 70 minutes.
Yeah, and obviously for that course record holder, Felix Kumatai, the winner from last year, he'll sort of be feeling his way into the race, and he'll obviously know it very well, having won it twice. Getting into form as well. The 30-year-old winning the Dongyin Marathon in China earlier this year in 2 hours, 9 minutes and 23 seconds, taking more than half a minute off his previous best, which he actually set here. So he's not necessarily the fastest this year, but a little bit of experience and a little bit of fun, knowing the course and maybe knowing a few tricks of the trade, a few hacks to get over the top of his rivals there, and really just sort of push it through and see where he can end up. But you know, we can see the runners now just taking on a bit more water as they try their best to get through the try their best to get through the course as they make their way around to sort of the open plains as well. They a little bit constricted maybe at the start of the race, buildings all around them, tree-lined streets, waving fans, but I guess this is probably the most isolated part of the course as they head out to sort of, I guess it's most days of the week it's usually a highway running out to the old airport.
Again, full of cars.
Yeah, again full of cars, but that's one of the charms of the city, let's call it Talha, is the proximity you get to your local passengers as well. So a few fans watching on there as they make their way along the road.
Well, with you talked about this part of the course being a little bit more isolated than the rest, with not a lot of fan interaction, whatever. That may actually be...
Well, not a lot at all. There's just one there, Talha.
Well, yeah. Well, that may be enough for some. But that actually, as I was saying, may be an advantage for the runners because, as some people have said, I mean, running, especially trying to go under 2 hours, trying to get world records, they call the land beyond the 2-hour barrier the Narnia of distance running. So if you call the 2-hour barrier that, for some they have their own 2-hour barriers. For some it's just finishing a marathon, just going through 42 kilometers. And I think, like I said, this part of the course may be a little more advantageous for the runners that are strong in their psychologies, and that could go the way to win it.
Yeah, exactly. As they make that turn back at the sort of 25-kilometre mark here, up the, let's call it the end of the course, but obviously not even anywhere near where finishing, they sort of will start to sort of regulate, and they'll know that this is effectively, well, maybe not the home stretch, but the final straight. And once they get to the end, they'll know the course. They've obviously run it one way, so they know, but by coming back, they'll know exactly where they want to be, how they want to be, what their timings they want to be. Obviously, they're well aware of how they're running and where they're running. And they'll just sort of edge their way ahead, start to look around, start to play a few games. They might create a little bit of distance with their fellow runners to just either not just make him, but also break him as well. They'll stretch him out. They'll use the pace setter. You want to sit in the middle there of that little, I think they call it a bus. You want to just sit there and let them do the running for you. It's almost like Tour de France cycling. A little bit of aerodynamics comes into play. You sort of let them break the wind and push their way through the breeze, and let them be the ones to run the race, and you just hang off the back and work your way through it and run your own race. And that's the major thing for these guys is, yeah, they may be running in a group, they may be having a chat, they might be all friends now, but when it comes to the crunch, when they hit the road up to Sultanahmet, they'll kick into gear and they'll try and make that play for the win.
And like you were mentioning, letting the pacemakers do their work is probably one of the more important things.
So that's why they're there
for the race. If I was a runner, I don't know how I'd be able to focus with these kind of like historical monuments around.
Well, there's another one right there, Talha, the Dolmabahce Tower, one of the most iconic places. Obviously, I think it's the last palace of the Ottoman Empire.
That's true.
And obviously a significant part of where Ataturk was where he passed away back in the old days, and the father of the Republic, one of the most important men. Everywhere you walk around this city, you'll see depictions of the former Turkish leader, obviously, who brought in the Republic, and which they celebrated on November the 5th.
Well, he died on November the 5th.
My apologies. Yes.
But which everyone celebrates. It's quite a rare scene to see, actually, in a big city like Istanbul. 20 million people. When it's 9:05, everyone stops. Everyone stands for a minute of silence, and they remember the founder of Turkey.
That's right, a hugely significant figure, obviously a long time after his passing, but still just as significant. Flags bearing his depiction around the finish line, statues around the city. We see him, well, he's never really gone, I guess, for the locals here. Obviously, hugely significant. These runners may not be too well aware of his history, but they won't miss out on seeing him at all. Another, obviously, if you're talking about icons of Turkey, there it is again, the Hagia Sophia, the museum. Truly a sight to behold inside and out. You can go up in there into the top, see the mosaics of the Christian period, the Islamic artworks or the shields inside there, all just showing, I guess, the unique elements of this city, as you can see there, the unique element of the Martyrs Bridge, East and West meeting together, Christian, Islamic, secular, anything you want, you can find it here, as the people just get on with life together.
And that's the whole point of the marathon as well. People from all walks of life competing.
All runs of life as well, Tyler.
Yes, exactly. Especially today.
That's right. Those guys might not be setting the pace of our running, the runners there, but they'll be doing what they can all the same. Obviously, a mixture between some of the fastest female athletes and the guys. Let's say I won't say dragging the pack, because they're really just making their way through and setting their own race. Maybe a final push at the end to tear their way through the course, but. The mixture of the two, obviously, the female women's marathon, their course record is a few minutes less than the men's. 2:18:35 last year's course record for the women's. There's no real chance of that being broken today. If you look at the season bests of the women, 2:22:59 in Nagoya by Visalaine Jepkesho, the Kenyan. She set that back in Nagoya, Japan. Now she's turns 30 next month, actually, so she'll be the big 3-0. Maybe she can ring that in with $50,000 worth of fun if she gets her way across the line today.
Won't be too bad.
Yeah, not a bad way to ring in your let's call it birthday month.
As we see here in Tabibu in the screen right now, his personal best was in Shanghai back in 2017, running a 2:23:35, and this year his best was 2:24:05 in Seoul. And so you never know, he may be able to, ramp up his personal best, try to finish a little faster, but doing that would mean doing a course record as well. So in the current pace, it's looking like they're on for 2:07:45. So he may not go as fast as that, but we'll still be watching.
Yeah, and they've just kicked past the hour mark now. The hour mark, obviously, halfway if you're Eliud Kipchoge, I guess.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah, he'll probably be into his second half now. Obviously, the significance of him breaking that 2 hours has changed the face of the sport. It's really kicked up interest again in marathon running. Obviously, the first marathon pretty significant itself back in the old ancient Greek times. But the marathon running that continues now to happen, it's now coming back to a bit of a feature event. Obviously, the most significant in terms of distance, the most significant in terms of, I guess, the human struggle of running, as we see some of the guys getting together with some of the wheelchair racers. Obviously, these guys are making their way across. They started about 15 minutes earlier to make through the course. They should be finishing up in not too long, I guess, the front runners. But these guys, as they're making their way back down, a couple of cyclists in there as well. I don't know if they're even part of it, just having a bit of fun. As they make their way, they're now about 20 kilometres into the race. They're now sort of, I guess, feeling their way, feeling where they are, seeing how they feel, and working in their sort of, now they're pacing for what they want, where they want to be. They'll be getting a little faster. They'll look around to latch onto a few people. There might be a few tough spells where a bit of lactic acid build up, just even a bit hungry even, who knows, a bit thirsty, just making their way through the course. It's one of the hardest parts of the race, because you've got so long left to go as you sort of hit halfway. You know how far you've run, but you know that if you get over that next period, you'll have to sort of be aware and just maintain that pace and keep going. It'll get more difficult if you try and run faster. You can't run through it and just think, I just want to get this over with. You just have to maintain that pace. It's about process and procession. A little breakaway there as well, just trying to rattle the cage a bit and try and sort of see where it goes, and running past some of the new hotels there, I guess around the Zayton Burnu area. Real huge new development in this part of the city as the old airport, or Ataturk Airport, moves to its new location. It's really opened up that district of the city. Huge developments going in, huge apartment buildings of all types, a couple of ferry ports as well, and really changing the face of the city as more and more people come to this fantastic city. You can't blame them with the weather like today. It may be November it may be cold. I'm sure other parts of the world will be rainy or other parts of Europe will be rainy and a bit damp. But Istanbul's put on a bit of a day for us as well.
I mean, talking about that string of that thought of 2 hours of that physical feat that Kipchoge obviously passed by. I mean, I don't think that only changes this sport, running. It changes every kind of sport, showing that, you know, the physical limit isn't always the limit. And, you know, as they say, you know, as humans, we're hardwired to discover new ways to challenge ourselves. And it's not only in running. I mean, this could have an effect in basketball, American football, football. I mean, you see Tom Brady of the New England Patriots in the NFL pushing 45. I mean, he wants to play into his 45. So, which is interesting. I mean, the more sports advance, the more science gets involved with sports. I think is there a limit?
Well, that's the thing. The Kipchoge effect is effectively telling us that you know, sport's developing. If you look at the 1896, the start of the modern Olympics, you'll see the 100-meter time, which probably I could maybe push or maybe at least make the final. But nowadays you're seeing, you know, can we push beyond Usain Bolt? Some people say we're almost at our limit of human performance. The amount of science that goes into this, the amount of you know, physical training, dietitians, nutritionists, people that just want to get that slight 1% every single time. That's how they keep, you know, that's how people keep interested, the human pursuit for betterment. That's why we landed on the moon, that's why we do this, that's why we do that, that's why we run. We want to see how much better we can get, and these guys can push and push and push because, you know, one day we will hit a point where we can't get better, but I don't think we're anywhere near that yet. As these guys sort of make their way along, they may not think that they can run 2 hours or sub 2 hours, but they are running what they can.
I think these guys are more than used to running for more than 2 hours.
That's exactly it.
I mean, we're talking about limits. Right now, Istanbul's about 14 degrees Celsius. You know, a little cold for some, especially for you coming from Australia, I guess. But you know, to do your best, you have to have, you know, everything has to go exactly right. You have to have the best marathoners. You have to have, you know, the best pacemakers. They have to be on their day. I mean, you know, if it's too hot, too cold, too windy, too rainy, if the pacers aren't good, then that's a race done. That's a world record gone,
and that's
course
it.
record gone.
That's
yeah.
the Kipchoge effect as well. In Vienna, he was required, or at least he wasn't required, but he had so much assistance, and that's part of the IAAF's reasoning for not ratifying the sub 2 hour marathon is hugely significant. The greatest probably marathon runner of our time. Maybe there's someone else, maybe they'll surprise us today, but he is the greatest of his kind, and he needed everything his own way, including, it's not just, you know, pace setters and quality of, it's the track was chosen, potholes were filled in around the city, everything was changed just for that perfect day. Even there was a floating calendar date of when they would actually be able to run the race, and that was all put down just so we could see this one man break 2 hours. And it is changing the sport, even down to the shoes that they run. Nike getting so heavily involved in the way they run things. The Nike Vaporfly, the shoe companies. It's now an arms race effectively between the major creators of athletic shoes. It'll change the sport because that's what that competition drives, is something new every time. And the track and field guys may say they might regulate shoes more, and that may change the way things are going, but that won't stop universities, that won't stop people from trying to break that marathon time and break it down even further as the pace setters lead everyone out and try and maintain that pace as we go through.
As you said, technology plays a big part. I mean, it's not like these runners are wearing your normal conventional Adidas's or Nikes or Under Armours or any kind of brand. It goes hand to hand. I mean, if you want people to improve, you need room to let them improve. Like when you look at swimming, when you look at Michael Phelps, you know, if I remember correctly, they had specific swimwear that when they wore that, they were faster.
That's exactly it.
And, you know, the big argument is, like comedian Bill Burr says, you know, if you want to see people go faster, you have to give a little bit of leg room.
That's exactly it. Well, leg room these guys have plenty of now as they make their way around around the track. They're set at a slight incline there again as well. I'm sure they won't be too happy to see that. They're over the halfway mark. They're hitting 1 hour, 4 minutes and 9 seconds. A projected 2:08:18, which is a decent time considering they've woken up early on their Sunday morning, and it will break the record actually if they do get across in that time. Obviously the back end going to be a bit tougher, but again the Kipchoge effect showed us that he ran his second half of the marathon faster. Once they get into that pace, once they feel where they are, they'll know the road, and they know if they have to run up this hill on the way back they get to run down it. So it's always a helping hand from there. Maybe they'll dip into that steakhouse for a bit of protein on the way past.
It's a nice steakhouse. As we can see, you know, two sides of the race, two different stories, both sides trying to do their best. That's what marathon running is all about.
Yep, just hit that time. It doesn't matter about time, it's about finishing. It's about the journey, as they say. The people who have trained endlessly to get themselves to this point, they've put in the hard yards, they've put off, you know, holidays and weekends away and nights out and restaurants and, you know, maybe the odd steakhouse meal that young Talha enjoys himself. Maybe they haven't been able to. They've probably loaded up on the carbohydrates last night, and that's the way of marathon training, is that you never run, or they say you should never run a marathon until you run the marathon. They have been training different lengths, different timings, different styles, different ways just to push their body as far as they can.
And again, very amazing sights in Istanbul with the Ataköy Marina. With the city, you know, situated right in the middle of a strait, the Bosphorus Strait. I mean, sea life and the life you have in the city go hand in hand. And without boats, without, like you said many times, without fish sandwiches, hamsi even, it takes a different kind of identity, this city.
Well, yeah, the recent boom of the mussels and rice trade has certainly helped a few shop owners out. The Beşiktaş area, famous for that in particular, they're really making sure that they can make plenty of money. The old mussels and rice is good after a late night snack, or now it's becoming during the day bite by the bucketful.
And if they knew about it, these runners, they'd probably be running faster.
Maybe they'll be tucking in afterwards. There's a few fans waving in the background there, getting people excited to be here. They're now about half, or just over halfway through.
And projected for 2:08:26 unofficially, according to Mr. Helmut Winter's stats. And as you can see on the left bottom corner, it says Turkish Çocuklar için Koş, which means run for the children. As with most marathons, there will be charities. People are running for charities, and some are running for the kids, for the benefit of kids, for kids that have been orphaned or don't have families, and you know, just for people to be educated better in a country like
That,
this.
that's right. Last year they collected around 12 million Turkish lira in donations, and this
Wow.
year they're expecting to hit 15 million for
Wow.
this. And you know, people running for a lot of different reasons. Actually, Başakşehir footballer Gökhan Inler, he'll be competing in the 15k category for his sport and education charity, sort
Oh,
of
that's
raising
nice.
a bit of money. So, you know, a few people can be a little happier in their life, and
Yeah.
and if running can help that, obviously Gökhan Inler's had a fantastic football career and playing now in the Turkish league. He's trying to do his part as well. Maybe he's pulled up quite well after their match this week.
As we can see with the calculations right now, Peter Kwemu Nudorobo from Kenya is on the mark for 1:04.12. That was obviously a couple kilometers ago before their every 5 kilometer timings. But for right now, they're going on good pace. Still on track to beat that 2:09.57 course record that last year's winner Felix Kimutai, the Kenyan runner, set. But still, you know, as we've said many times before, that last incline at Sultanahmet is a very tough one to climb.
Yeah, they certainly won't be thanking the organisers for that one at the end, but you know, it'll get them over the top.
And as we've said before, I mean, the race starts 78 meters above sea level, and according to the IAAF's rules, you're not allowed to have more of a decline. You're not allowed to have a decline more of 1 kilometer per kilometer. 1 meter, sorry. 1 meter per kilometer during the race. So that means that, you know, the race shouldn't go less than 40 kilometers less than 78, which is, if my math is correct, is 36 meters above sea level. And, you know, that's why the race is ending with that incline, actually, to be able to meet certain standards that the IAAF wants, which is 38 meters for this race.
And look, that sort of incline and decline will be a bit of a difference as these guys make their way along past some more wheelchair races. It's just an idea of, you know, what this sport does to the body. The body temperature of the runners rises as they sort of make their way along the course. Obviously, sitting around, you're in the mid 30s for your internal body temperature. But as your body tries to cool you down, you'll risk just the blood just getting around, just heating you up, and obviously that causes sweat for most people. Your kidneys will take a bit of a hit. Your energy production goes into overdrive. You'll be burning, I reckon they say, around for these elite runners over 2,000 calories on this one today. So they'll definitely be tucking into a decent lunch when they're finished. As they try and change their body temperature, regulate their breathing, take on some more water, take on a bit of energy as well. The gels or the even muesli bars are even used as a slow way of releasing a bit of energy and getting glucose in, take in more oxygen as the lactic acid starts to build up in the legs and the arms, and you know, you're just going to have to keep going. Obviously, there's problems with injuries, there's rolling your ankle, even simple things like tripping over on the way is probably not for the elite athletes so much, but anything can happen on the road races. We've seen plenty of that over the years.
Especially during the last few minutes of runners trying to get in front of each other, trying to get that extra yard of pace into their system and finish the race on a high. But as you said, I mean, the weather right now is, for this time of the year, relatively perfect, 16 degrees, and as Lachlan just said, I mean, the more you run, right now they probably feel like they're in the desert.
That's right. Yeah, they'll take any drinks they can at the moment. Yeah, even if it is a cool 16 degrees, they'll really be burning for it. They're
And nothing against Dubai or Doha, not a dig on them, but how do they race there as well? I mean, under those conditions.
well, exactly right. Well, we saw firsthand what happened in the World Championships. Obviously, they moved the race to late at night to try and sort of cool things down. It didn't quite do as they said. A couple of the actual competitors today, some of the women's competitors actually ran that race and didn't finish. There's a Ukrainian and Belarusian, both did not finish. Actually, I apologise. I believe the Belarusian did finished the race in Doha a couple of weeks ago. Apologies to her, but the Svetlana Kudzelic, the Belarusian, finished 32nd at the World Championships. So I do apologise to her and all her fans out there. I'm sure they're watching there in Minsk.
All of Belarus.
Yeah, all of Belarus watching today. Yes, but the heat itself, obviously hugely significant, massive story for athletics and the World Championships. But yeah, running those races, it's I mean, look, some people have equated running a marathon to putting your body through a meat grinder, so it doesn't matter what it is. And there you see the guys now making their turn back. Obviously that barricade making sure they don't run to Greece, but the guys are now turned back on themselves. They'll be making their way back through Atakoi, wrapping their way back across the seaside on their right-hand side now as they make their way towards Sultanahmet. They'll be pushing themselves. Moses Kemai sitting maybe on top there. Daniel Kibet as well, Felix Kumatai. It's just sitting in the pack, and that's exactly where he wants to be, just on that front line, just feeling his way into the race, letting them do the running for him, and he can just sit there and pounce whenever he feels it. You'll start to see now as they sort of hit past halfway, the big timers, the ones who know they can win this. This is when the mental game kicks in. This is where their focus, their drive starts to say, oh, if you want to try and keep up, I'm going to push you a bit. These guys know exactly how many gears they have and how they can just click over into overdrive and watch them all drop away. And that's the difference between a marathon runner who's just willing to finish and a great one who's willing to win. It's all about the courage to take that race on and make it yours.
Now pushing the 1 hour 20 minute mark. The runners that we just saw are projected to finish at 2:08:26, so they're getting a bit slower in some parts, but also kind of getting faster as well. So you never know, maybe still a course record on hand for the following hour or so.
That's right. They're hitting around 3 minutes per kilometre there. That's a cracking pace to get 1 or 2 kilometres out, let alone now being well over the 25 mark. An hour 20 in, they know that they've effectively broken the back of it. They're now on the downhill in maybe not the uphill on the way past Sultanahmet, but they're on their downhill in mentally. They know that they've done the hard work and they can sort of, let's not say cruise home, because they say the last 10, 15 kilometres is the time where things get really tough. But
where you make or break it, yeah.
That's exactly it. So they'll just be sitting in there knowing that they can just push themselves. They've done the hard work, they've done the training, and now they can sort of push their way through. There's some of those new developments that maybe they'll be looking for a bit of real estate on the way. Maybe that $50,000 can put a nice down payment on a penthouse apartment.
Well, with the houses in Istanbul, I don't really know.
This is the first marathon, or the first, let's say, IAAF gold class marathon for Aykut Tashdemir, the 29-year-old Turkish runner. Just holding in there, making a way across the course and doing the best they can. Not all runners, obviously, are just marathon runners. They're 5,000 metre runners, 10,000, 1,500 metre, just really pushing their way through the distance events. A couple of people really enjoying themselves there as they kick off their bit of the fun. A few balloons going around, which probably isn't a pace setter that they'll need to follow, but people tearing off on their Sunday just to get out and about. There we see the Turkish flags waving high, a couple of, even some walking sticks there. Any way you can get over the line, even with jumping jacks, you can get your way there. Nice little sight there of some balloons taking off into the the Sunday sun with a bit of a classic Istanbul backdrop of the minarets of the mosque, the apartment buildings, and a 4-lane freeway.
As we see Aykut Demir again in that group, He actually, as far as we know, never ran a full marathon officially. He ran a half marathon, finished in mostly in Turkey, Trabzon, 10Ks, 8Ks, 5,000 meters, 3Ks, 2,000 steeplechases in Sparta. But he's hanging in there as far as we've seen.
Yeah, and half marathon timing as well. He's run those. We've seen back in April in Kiev running a 65-minute half marathon. So he's now pushing himself into a new distance. Obviously, a bit of a bucket list item for him, just to push his way through and try and sort of just see where you stand. You never know until you try it, do you?
Yep, exactly. And with the runners running across the streets, it's still magical to me. I mean, I know I've said this quite a lot of times, but this is Istanbul's other face.
And there we see the split between the men's and the women's. A couple of blokes in there as well, just sort of setting the pace, helping out and making their way along. The men's obviously a little bit faster. Just no reason for that apart from let's call it genetics. But the blokes, the men, getting their way through the race and pushing their way forward. The women, obviously, you got some big namers. Tibebu, Sifan Melaku, the Ethiopian, Angela Tannoy, making their way through. Svetlana Kudzelic, who I mentioned earlier, she's in the race, a world champion runner. And there's a few people that have made their way through. Angela Tannoy has a cousin, or sorry, a running sister as well, another marathon runner. So keeping it all in the family. She ran her personal best in Vienna in April, the beautiful Vienna Marathon, beautiful place for a marathon, flat down by the river around the Prater Park, famous for some Orson Welles movies if you're a fan, for all those Orson Welles fans out there watching a marathon on a Sunday morning. And of course there's the Turkish athlete Elvan Aybalagesi.
Originally Ethiopian.
Originally Ethiopian, yes. Spending a fair few years now, 37. Began her international career at the age of 18 in 2001, where she won the European 3,000 and 5,000 metre titles, setting a national record for Turkey. She actually set a world record of 8:31.94 in the 3,000 metres in 2002 in Brussels. She's had her run-ins, but she did compete at the 1,500 and 5,000 metre at the 2004 Olympic Games, and she'll be hoping that she can make something special today happen. At the 21-kilometre mark, she's sort of hitting an hour 13.
As we just saw here, Tibebu is looking like she's leading the race for the women's side. For this year, as we look off to her results, she started in Osaka but didn't finish, unfortunately. And in Seoul, she placed second in her personal best for this year, 2:24.05, which for the women's could be enough to win it here in Istanbul.
Yeah, that's right. It'd give a real nudge at some of the men's times as well. There's the sort of grouping sort of split off into their packs. Doesn't matter man or woman, you can run together as long as you can get through that 42 kilometres, obviously.
As we look at the men's, 28 kilometers behind, with an hour and 27 minutes going into the race. Now they ran 28 kilometers in an hour and 25:31. And that's projected to be 2:08.52. So again, you never know until that last incline at Sultanahmet towards the Blue Mosque. And as you can see, amazing pictures right now. A drone view from up top, right at the Galata Bridge.
Yeah, that's right. Nice little ferry coming under there. Not bad for a little ferry trip on a Sunday morning. You see a couple of 100,000 people running along. Not an everyday sight for this part of the world.
And I may be biased in this, but I'd say the ferry trips in Istanbul are pretty fun. You know,
Not bad.
not like from Jersey to Manhattan or anything, but still with the scenery, the history.
No, it's no Staten Island ferry, but it's, you know, where else do you get to feed the seagulls? There's a bit of entertainment. Nice cup of tea and a simmer as you make your way from Europe to Asia or vice versa. Iconic sort of ferry terminal there in Katakoy as well on the Asian side, which is just, yeah, no, another part of the romance of the city is that maybe the runners can spend their time wisely afterwards. If they've got 50,000 in the bank, that's certainly enough on an Istanbul cart to get their way across across the ferries. But if you look at the timings there, Talha, you know, between 22 kilometres and 28 kilometres, they're sitting around, the times do fluctuate. They're usually, let's say 5-6 kilometres ago, the men's runners were at about 2:08.18, and now they're at about 2:08.49 for the 29 kilometre. So yes, they are slowing, but each kilometre is at a different pace. Everyone sort of, they may pick up their pace, they may feel their sort of heartbeat, they may look at their heart rate. The pacemaker might be, I don't know, having a bit of water. There's also seconds that drops out due to water intake, a bit of food, as their body processes, as they get the energy from the stuff that they've eaten, and sort of gives them a little kick along, and as they make their way through the course.
And again, iconic visuals from the Galata Bridge. Twenty-one, 29 kilometers left behind, with 13 remaining.
There's a shot of the leading men and the leading women. Felix Kumatai obviously setting a course record here last year, but he returns in better form this year, as we mentioned earlier, winning the Dongying Marathon earlier this year in 2:09.23, which would put him about 34 seconds under his course record. It's that was his previous best, but he might need to produce another lifetime best if he wants to become the first back-to-back men's winner since 2011. Yitial Atnafu of Ethiopia is the fastest in the field. We know it was 2 hours and 7 minutes in Paris last year. The 26-year-old returned to the French capital earlier this year and recorded a season best of 2 hours, 8 minutes and 31 seconds. Based on this year's times, Turkey's Polat Kemboy Arakan leads the field. The two-time European 10,000 metre champion set a personal best of 2:08.14 in Paris back in April, just ahead of Atnafu, the Ethiopian as mentioned, who does have that 2:07 in his bank and knows that they can just push out. Even if there is a little bit of an incline, they'll know what they have to do to get over the line. Aside from Kimitai, there's two other winners, or former winners, of who knows what knows what it feels like to feel the glory of winning in Istanbul. There's 2016 winner Evans Kiplagat of Azerbaijan and 2015 champion Elis Chelimo, both sub 2:08 performers at their best. They return here. There's our Turkish champion Elvan Abe Legese, the former world record holder in her own events, taking some big strides, catching up the next one. A career highlight here of marathons of 5th in Istanbul. Just turning the corner there. An hour 32 on the clock. There's a couple of runners there that can do inside the 209. Obviously, we'd give them the course record as well, and have the ability to contend for the podium finish. Bahrain's Abdi Ali Gelchu and Ethiopia's Musa Babo have been on form this year, setting personal best this year, both inside the 209 mark, just under course record time. So maybe if they're on the way up or ramping up to something special, they can set a course record here. The pacemakers, or three of the pacemakers, will lead them through the first 30 kilometres to get on schedule for a 209 finish. It is possible we could see a record today. The course record, which I keep mentioning, is adds a bit of fun for us. Ercan Aslan, the Turkish runner there. A couple of Trabzonspor football colours for those football fans who can't keep it out of their running, but still want to be part of it. There's Peter Nodorobo, the personal best at 2 hours 14 minutes 34 in Ljubljana 2017, at 26 years old. A fair old effort to hit that mark. Obviously the age of the runner not really being important, it's just about getting it done effectively. Pace setters just pushing their way out now, and they'll be wrapping up pretty soon. They can also finish. Marin Chepkemoy, the personal best this year, 2:26.16 in Vienna. Also, obviously, the season best as well. But 21 years old, plenty of running left in the legs.
As you can see, Moses Kamei, who's the pace setter, is at 1:31.29 currently, which was at the 30-kilometer checkpoint. Now they're at the 31-kilometer checkpoint, which they've been going at for quite a while. Their latest kilometer, the 31st kilometer, as I've mentioned, was done in 3 minutes and 10 seconds, which is actually one of the slower times in their last 30 kilometers. So we may be seeing a slight slowdown, a change of pace, if you will.
Yeah, that turning point of, and I guess they are running up a slight incline as well. That'll add to it, so they'll be keeping their pace. They'll have to regulate that, and the lactic acid slightly building up. And if you look at the splits there, sort of around 15 minutes, let's say, per 5 kilometres, as they sort of turn back the full marathon turning point at about 1 hour 18, 30 kilometres at 1:31. They push their way through. There's only the first, let's say, 20 runners or 18 runners have made their way through the 30-kilometre mark so far, as the pace setters, will drop off. They can finish the race. They'll be able to, maybe they'll see glory or stars in their eyes and make their way over the top. Obviously the leading men and leading women there, both together. Huron Tibebu, the leading woman at the moment, 1:27.16 for her. She's in a bit of a group there with Sifan Malaku, the Ethiopian runner, Angela Tanu, the Kenyan, and Maureen Chepkemoy. Running in packs obviously very important to or just give you something to do as well, so you don't feel so lonely.
So for the men's, when we look at the leaderboards, besides the pacemakers and Moses Kamei and Daniel Kibet, right now Felix Kimutai looks like he's on the way to another win.
What's an early call, Talha? 30 kilometres in.
Well, you
a long way to go. 12 k's
that's true.
left. A lot can happen in that time, as
That
you would
is
know
true.
yourself from all your marathons you've put in over the years.
Which are 0. But you still get excited when you see last year's winner trying to defend his title.
That's right, and look, he knows how to win the race, and that's what's so important here is that ability to kick through and know in your legs that you've got what it takes to get over the top. You know, other people, it's a huge thing in sport, that mentality, that focus on winning, or that ability to know that you can win. That's where it is.
And we're looking at the women right now. As you've said before, not necessarily faster than the men, but still going for the times, going for the win. We have here Tibebu, who's on 1:27.16. Sifan Malaku, again 1:27.16, their latest checkpoint. Both Ethiopians, compatriots.
That's right. Visaline Jebkesho, the female runner, sorry, not the woman runner. She's trying to get her way back to the Olympic Games. She's run 1:29.50 for her first split, a little bit behind the pace setters. Obviously competing at the World Championships a couple of weeks ago. I said she might run into a bit of problem in the back end of the race, maybe a bit tired after running a World Championship 15th placed back in Doha. May not be at a freshest, but that won't stop anything. There's obviously other names in there that we know. Elvan Ebelegese, the Turkish runner.
He's currently running in 9th, I believe.
Yeah, that's correct. Merima Mohammed, the Bahraini runner, set her personal best back in 2010 of a 2:23.06. Still highly competitive, 2:27 this year. In June that was run. Ethiopian duo of Hirat Tebebu and Fatima Sadu also expected to challenge for the race. Tebebu finishing second in Seoul in March and beating Mohammed, coming within 30 seconds of her personal best of 2:24. Sado, meanwhile, with a 2:24.16 and keen to improve on her third place finish here from last year.
And we still see Aykut Taşdemir in the mix, right over there, in between women and some men. Going strong on the 1:41 mark.
That's right. Yeah, just about to kick over into the 30k region. The leading Turkish athlete currently is Polat Kemboy Arakan.
And as you said before, we have the walls of Istanbul that surrounded the city of Constantinople, which is Istanbul today. Since its founding as a new capital of the Roman Empire by Constantine the Great, they've been there, which is, for people who live around here, it's easy to forget how much history is filled on each corner. And for participants in this race, we see on one side the elite runners coming back, on the other enthusiasts hoping to finish the race, seeing how far ahead the elite athletes are, possibly 8 kilometers ahead, which is crazy to think in an hour and 42 minutes. But yeah,
The Constantine the Great probably would have loved watching today, loved a bit of a show. Usually in the Hippodrome where we are sitting, we're right on the finish line, famous for its let's just call them parties. That back in the Roman days,
fun times.
obviously times change, things move on. Now it's filled awash with cars and fans and cameras for the press conference for the victors, a podium, the medals. I can see the trophies over there getting just their last minute polish. Everything coming together towards the end. Now all the runners have to do is play their part and get over the finish line as they check the time there, just to see where they're at and get to know how they're feeling. Obviously the being in with the leading women, some of those male runners with some decent times behind them could help boost them along, kick them into another gear and drag them closer towards those leading male runners at the moment.
And that mix is generally what people think about in terms of putting Paula Radcliffe or Mary Jepsoki Ketani ahead of today's most women runners who run in mixed kind of situations where they do have an advantage of being in front of men. Similar to last year's winner with Chepngetich. I mean, her record last year was pretty amazing when you think about it, especially with the current pace that the women are going at.
Yep, just blew them away. Now the pace setters, or the pace makers, sorry, for the women's race will aim to put those leading athletes on schedule for about a 2:21 marathon this time around. Obviously 2:18:35, the record from last season.
And when you look at the elite athletes' season best, none of them really do have that sub 2:20 kind of racing time.
That's right.
The only one we could talk about which we have Veselin Jepkesho from Kenya. But other than her, not a lot of serious competition for that course record, for that extra $50,000.
Well, that's exactly it. And that course record obviously is now owned by the world champion, so it's going to be hard to knock that off. Obviously, she'll be aiming for next year's Olympic Games, and I guess anyone would, in their right mind, be aiming for an Olympic Games. That's the peak of the sport itself. These guys here, obviously, if you're a young Kenyan runner, Felix Kimitai would be hard pressed to make that Olympic team. When you look at the names on show, Kipchoge just won. He can probably run as himself, run the whole marathon, and probably we can call it quits today. See if he can make 2 hours or sub 2 hours in Japan. That would be a sight to behold.
What makes Kipchoge's record even more interesting is among all the Olympics, I mean, the Olympic record back in 2008 is 2:06:32 by Samuel Wanjiru, by his compatriot. I mean, do you ever think, especially coming up in Tokyo, we could see a sub 2 hour kind of finishing time from any kind of athlete?
Anything's possible.
Anything's possible.
And that's the whole point, isn't it? The
Yeah.
human exercise in running is just about breaking those marks and continuing to smash history. And look, an hour 45 in, these guys probably aren't going to hit the sub 2 hour, considering they've got about 9 kilometres to go.
In 15 minutes.
In 15 minutes, and maybe they can jump on the back of that bike there or get them through or look away while they try and break history. But if you look at the progression, like an hour 45 to knock over the 33 kilometres so far, or 30 into the 34. You know, you look back into 1979, the first Istanbul Marathon, Hassan Saylan winning that one in 2 hours 35:40. Now I don't know where that would put him now. Probably well down the pack, but there's no problem in that. That is obviously not the slowest winning time the next year. Necmettin Salem, 2 hours 36.
Now on the screen we can see the Yedi Kule Zindanları, which is it's a fortified. It was a fortified historic structure, and for most people that don't live in Turkey, you know, it was probably known as one of the biggest royal dungeons. You know, that kind of fable of Turkish prisons and all that probably came out of there. So, not really sure.
Or maybe if you don't quite get the inside the timings before the organisers cut things off in about 6 hours, you might have to get stuck in there. So a little more enthusiasm or encouragement, let's say, for the runners there not to get locked up in Talha's dungeon.
Now, on one side we have the leading men, and on the other side we have the leading woman. Hiret Tibebu still going strong. Her latest check mark at the 30-kilometer set mark was an hour 41:53, and looking like she could take that as well. At the same time, there are 5 other runners who had the same time, 1:41:53. But you never know. As we can see on screen there, a lot of locals running, not entirely at the same pace as we just saw from the elite runners, but still trying their best.
Doing what they can to get over the line. Now a Turkish athlete hasn't won the race in about in 2 decades.
Since 1994.
That's right. So we've had 11 Turkish winners, 29 foreigners, obviously 13 Kenyans and 7 Ethiopians, really, really making their mark felt across this race. Now, obviously, Great Britain's winner back in the old days, or probably won't appreciate me saying that, but a few years ago, it was Ian Thompson in 1983. His marathon record of 2 hours 32:35 that he set here, set him up for quite a career in the race. Obviously, Commonwealth Games gold medalist, still holds the Commonwealth record for the marathon.
1974. That time was 2:09:12, which is faster than the course record here in Istanbul, which is fascinating. And as you can see, elite runners on one side, amateurs on the other, now the women. So it's all a mix of pushing the limit, if you will.
Yeah, the Turkish women have only won this race once. Haven't won since 1994. Obviously, they'll be hoping for the best there. The Elvan Egbelagese, she'll be hoping that she can pick up the pace slightly. She's not quite yet at the 30-kilometre mark. The first of the women are now starting to, or the first group have passed a couple of minutes ago.
And as you look at the men's times on the screen right there, top 5 runners with Felix Kimitai, last year's winner, on top, all recording the same time. So when we come to the incline at Sultanahmet, which is I think the 5th time I'm saying this, it could be a sprint for the finish line.
Well, that's the break, isn't it? That's how you sort of push yourself home and make the make or break time to get over the top. 35 kilometres in now, or just over. Felix Kimitai hoping to sort of retain that. Getting a bit more water on board as the leading women and the pace setters trying to get their way, just get that last intake. There's not long to go now if you think about it. For the men's, they're over 35 kilometres. They're now on track for a 2:09:11, which would obviously break the course record, but there's so many variables left. They'll start to look around, they'll start to have their last chats with each other as they try and get their way into a winning position. It's almost like horse racing, Tala. You just have to sit on the shortest amount of space that you have to run, sit on that inside, let the others do the work for you, and then when you see your moment, you have to seize it. You just have to take it and go for it.
And obviously for the top 5, not necessarily that big of a deal in terms of making the Olympics or not, being able to compete in the Olympics or not, because the top 5 finishers at a IAAF gold label marathon are allowed to go to the Olympics. But for the people after them, that mark that they have to meet in order to be able to go to the Olympics is 2:11:30. So it doesn't really seem like anyone else other than the top 5 could actually be in that standard of, trying for Olympic glory.
Well, yeah, but sitting at an hour 51 now. They should be crossing potentially the 40-kilometre mark, not too far from now.
A couple of kilometres left.
2:09:15, they were projected at the 36-kilometre mark.
So it's getting slower and slower.
It is slowing down.
Incline is showing its effect.
Yes, that's right. That's sort of the changes in the scenery, the changes in the sort of elevation. There's a few people down in Besiktas having a bit of fun, a few flags out. Probably not setting the cracking world record pace we were hoping for, but as they make their way down, maybe stop off in the Besiktas fish market for a little taster on the way through, get the energy any way you can, a bit of kokoreç on your way down to the stadium.
It's the best season for fish right now, so
perfect time to do it.
And when you look at the men's top 4, you got Felix Kimitai, you got Yital Atnafu-Zerihun, Peter Kuemu Notorobo, and Cosmas Jairus Birec, all at the same time, all competing for that big $50,000 win. And you never know. The race is getting pretty exciting, especially with the pacemakers out of the way. Now it's
every man and woman for themselves.
Yeah, every step, every stride matters.
And also the sort of the mental element of watching these runners come past you the other way, knowing that, okay, we're getting there, we're getting close. Probably the best part of about 20 minutes to go for these guys, and they know that they're just chewing up those meters. A slight little decline there, that'll help the legs, give them a chance at a bit more air. Suck in the deep breaths and just sit on that inside lane. Hopefully not go in the Eurasian tunnel that'll take them across to the Asian side.
That'd be a wrong turn, yes. And when you look at the current climate of the race in terms of incline, decline, I mean, most runners like to race at more like flat marathons, either it be Berlin, London, Dubai. That's where they try to, go for their personal best. And right now, I mean, in that stretch of flat asphalt, if they do want to win, that was where the race was won, basically. And it's all left for the last 10, 15 minutes or so.
That's right, they'll start, they're just over the 37 kilometre mark now, and the leading men are starting to just pull away a bit more. They're dropping off just a couple in that front pack now, that leading pack. Felix Huetai obviously knows how to win here.
And on the women's side, you got Hirat Tibebu, Ethiopian, and Sifan Melako, another Ethiopian runner. Both on the same times and both vying for that special win here in Istanbul.
Yeah, Nafu's the fastest on the track this year, or fastest in this pack, this year. He knows what he's got in his legs. He knows, he knows he's been past that mark in Besiktas quite a while ago. There you go, a nice little drone shot there, down to the square. Like a rabbit warren in there. I always get lost when I go through the Besiktas area. Never know where I am. Some huge doner kebabs can be found down there. Comedy festival currently going on at the moment. So
oh, really? Oh, yeah, we see it right there.
There's no laughing matter though at the front of the pack though. As the,
certainly not.
As the guys try and make their way now, probably around 15 minutes to go. A little less than if they hope to break the course record. Deciding, get a bit of water in. Offering it around. That's quite
wow.
quite sporting considering.
$50,000 on the line.
Yeah, that's right. Still worth helping out. A couple of fans now starting to turn up. Probably a bit confused over what's going on.
Which is kind of interesting in sports in general. Like when you watch, especially North American sports in the 90s, players hated each other. You got Michael Jordan, Charles Oakley. You have the steel defense of the Steelers, hated by everyone in the league. And now you got two of the front runners helping each other with water. So.
Well, athletics has a bit of a name for itself, obviously.
That's true.
Over the years, runners helping each other up, helping each other out. That's the way it should be. That's the way sport should be.
And I guess the respect comes from everyone's journey being very hard, being tough. Running 42Ks is not easy.
Yeah, there's a brothership, kinship in there, and those front runners. They probably know each other from the circuit. They've spent plenty of hours running along together. I look back at the Galata Bridge, some of the, I won't call them stragglers, that's probably a bit unfair. But stragglers compared to these guys here.
Well, in pictures from earlier in the day when the roller skaters were on the course, like we said before, having the most fun.
Probably tucked up in bed by now.
Probably.
After an early start.
Big breakfast.
Big breakfast. Yep. Nice snooze. Still drifting around that 2 hour, 9 minute, 20 mark. Now around between the 38th and 39th kilometre there. Right where they want to be. Obviously after the timing that they've run and the amount of miles in their legs, they'll know that what will give them the spur is the fact that it'll all be over soon.
for both them and us, I guess.
That's true, and for our listeners as well. It all has to end sometime.
Well, with Felix Kimutai, last year's winner, going in front, when you look at his season best right now, which is also his personal best, it's 2:09.23, about 30 seconds faster than his time last year here in Istanbul when he won it. So if he does want to pass that, he currently, according to our calculations, has to not lose 1 second at all in each kilometer. And with about 10 minutes or so left in the race, that's pretty tough to do, even if you're a world-class runner. And on the women's side, you still have Hira Tibebu and Sifan Melaku competing for that top spot. Their times are currently in their last 30-kilometer relay was at 1:41.53.
Obviously, they're hoping to be in there under 2:21. The course record at 2:18.35. So they'll probably have to kick it up a few notches if they want to break a record here. But obviously, as they turn the corner into Sultanahmet, they're going to be more and more fans cheering them on, trying to bring them home. That'll give them a spur. That gives them that last jolt of energy. They'll know that they're getting closer, and they'll know that if they want the money, they'll have to get it.
Yeah.
It's the the passing around the water bottles and helping out your friends is all well and good, but if you want to win the race, then all that gets pushed aside. We're just past the 2-hour mark now. Inside 10 minutes now to go for the men's if they want to break that course record. Felix Kimutai obviously wants to push his way to back-to-back titles. The first, I think, in since 2011.
That's true. 2011, it was Vincent Kiplagat, a Kenyan runner, winning. Doubling up, actually, defending his title. And on the men's side, you do have that quite a lot. Kasina Dilo doing it in 2009, 2008. You have the legendary runner Moges Taya, Ethiopian, doing it from 97 to 99, those 3 years. But since that feat in 2011, no repeat winners for the men's side.
And it just goes to show the increasing quality of this race, that as it gets into the gold standard, as more and more people, as we get closer to an Olympic Games year, World Championship year, people will be sort of maybe around their best. They'll be pushing for sort of some kind of history of their own.
And do you reckon runners at this race, not in particular, but heading up to the Olympics, they would be okay with finishing second, third, fourth, fifth, that finishing at least in the top 5, just so they can have their go at that Olympic gold in Japan in about 9 months' time?
Well, yeah, they may be just sitting back, feeling their way around the course, and sitting there and going, look, I know I've got more in the tank. You don't want to give it all away. It may be a huge game plan to win Olympic gold, and that's what it's all about. Your wins will help, but it's the way to get Olympic gold's even more important, I guess. That's what you do this for.
As we can see on the women's side here, that Tibebu is getting on that winning track that looks like could bring her that win.
And of course, the last 7 kilometres of the marathon, the hardest bit. This is what they've done the training for. This was what sets them apart from the other runners.
And on the men's side, you can see Felix Kimutai looking back, looking who he was competing with. We obviously can see in the background the old buildings, the old walls of the Ottoman Empire left over from the Byzantines. And which means they're getting closer and closer.
That's exactly it. They'll
almost
know.
7-8 minutes left.
They'll know that those walls, they remember those from when they ran past. They've kept that mental picture as they come closer and closer. As they run along the seaside there. Last sort of deep breaths of sea air before they head through the maze-like structure of the old city, past the bits of Gülhane Park. A little bit of energy. Just that last kick over the top. Here we go.
And you can see Peter Nodoboro getting that last sip, getting those last bits of water, looking behind him.
He could be on course for a personal best here today.
That is true. Which was in Ljubljana in 2017. So as far as we can understand with our estimations, if they finish like they're running right now, we're expecting a 2:09.36 finish.
Not a bad effort for a Sunday morning. As they look on, do you reckon they're laughing as they see the fun runners go past the other way?
I don't know. I don't know if they're even noticing them, to be honest.
That's right. They'll be focused on everything they can do to kick them over the top. They're getting closer and closer.
And when you look at how much of a gap Peter Nodoroba has, it's just 1 second, which, as we see right now, is probably less than a few milliseconds. Not quite like F1, but still the tiniest of gaps.
That's right, but they'll know that if they just tuck in, and just like Formula One, keep their body small, keep their shape,
down,
keep their head down, focus, let the leader break through the breeze, and they can see if they can push themselves over the top.
Now if we go over to the women's side and check their timings out, Hirde Tebebo is still neck and neck with Marine Chepkomé and Tigist Abacheo. Tebebo and Abayecho, both Ethiopians, keeping Chepkomé, who's a Kenyan, right in the middle. Their times are currently at the latest 35-kilometer mark, 1:58.48.
Now over the 40-kilometer mark for these men. Probably, let's say, if they want to break that record, 5 minutes. That's all they've got left. I reckon even I could do that last 5 minutes. At a push.
I mean,
on a motorbike.
Maybe 2 kilometers. They ran 40. You have a little bit of an edge.
The media starting to swell around the finish line here as people start to get ready with their little brush with fame as those men's runners just start to take that incline in now.
Ooh, Nodoroba falling out a little bit from the lead. And now that incline that we talked about going through up to Gülhane.
Kimitai just taking the edge there now, and they're just sort of flattening out. There's barely anything in it, but what a lot of runners will do is they'll create a bit of space, they'll create a bit of a diversion, they'll move away as they trot through Gülhane Park, just trying to put something into the mind of the other runners there, that they may just have that edge, that they may just break them mentally in those last few kilometres or those last few 100 metres now, where we're talking about small little margins now. Anything you can do to get yourself over the top there.
And now going through Gülhane Park, the 4-person group has now dwindled down to 3.
Yes, they've broken another one away.
3
just
people
couldn't
left.
maintain that pace.
3 people left and just under 2 kilometres.
Atnafu there, obviously fastest of the year. Felix Kumatai and Nodorobo all there, all in 2:02 at the 40-kilometre mark. So they've really just got to, well, it's almost a sprint finish after 40 kilometres, after 2 hours and 6 minutes of running. They've just got to get up the hill and through the park as they try and bring it home.
Now on the women's side, you still have Hirde Tebebo, the Ethiopian runner, keeping the lead. Now on the men's side, where all the intention is right now, with less than 2 minutes left. Oh, and you see the attack happening?
That's a nice little attack there, pushing his way ahead. Just striding ahead, just trying to break them. Will this be enough to get him the win? Will it bring him home?
And now the last projection at the 41-kilometer mark, it's 2:09.52. So in that last 1 kilometer from 40 to 41, they lost about 18 seconds.
That's the hill for you, Talha.
Yep, exactly. And now it's looking like this is the winning moment coming up out of Gülhane.
Just a few hundred meters left now. Turning through the entrance of Gulhane Park. The Blue Mosque, the Hagia Sophia, just a few hundred meters ahead.
It's make it or break it time. Course record, $50,000 on the line. Now let's listen in on a potential winner.
Sucking in those deep breaths. Just trying to push that way over the top.
Every stride, every step of the way.
Daniel Kipkore Kibet pushing his way around the corner.
Last minute or so.
Time is on his side. He's broken the lead from the rest. It's gone from a pack of 4 to a pack of 3 to just 1 now. There's the Hagia Sophia in the background. Coming around the corner. We're seconds away from the winner of the 41st Istanbul Marathon.
But the question is, will he break the course record?
Can he break the course record? Now onto the last straight. Fans milling around.
40 seconds away. And here he comes.
From a pace setter to a champion. The 28-year-old, the 29-year-old coming home now. The pace setter takes the win, takes the 41st Istanbul Marathon. Fantastic timing. What an effort. Bows down in celebration, in exultation. Second place. Comes across the line at Nafu Zerihun, the Ethiopian finishing in 2:09:57. We have, we believe, a course record for the men. Peter Kwemoy Nodrobo, the Kenyan, finishing in third at 2:10:09. Will be happy with that. You can be absolutely sure.
Yital Atnafu Zerihun with a 2:09:57, the exact time from last year. Who also, in some sense, broke the record. And at first place, Daniel Kipkore Kibet, the pacemaker, with a course record of 2:09:44.
What an incredible turnaround. Just brought here. There's the fourth place. Comes across the line now.
And he was supposed to run up until the 30-kilometer mark.
But is allowed to push on, and has not only just pushed on, but taken the whole thing. Left to keep the pace, but have come home in fourth and first place.
At just 23 years old. And last year's winner, Felix Kimutai, finished at 2:10:50, a good minute, under his time from last year. Especially devastated, I'd imagine.
Well, the celebration of just finishing enough for many, but for the people at the top end, they want that $50,000. They want that victory. Daniel Kipkore Kibet. Can you believe it? From pacemaker to champion.
And on the men's side, you have other racers finishing up their race. When you look at the winner, Daniel Kibet's times from this year, in February he raced in Seville, finishing 5th, and back in September, just about a month, more than a month away, he raced in Buenos Aires, finishing 3rd. So this is his practically 3rd marathon, and he won it in Istanbul, one of the more challenging.
Yes, that's
races.
right. Showing that there's class is permanent, even if you're a bit tired, let's say. But what an absolute incredible performance! As we see more of the runners coming home now. They may not be winning, but they've still got, if they finish in that top 8, there's plenty of prize money to have, and obviously prize money for the winner there, who gets not only the win, but a
And the
course
cheers.
record as well.
And here at the Istanbul Marathon, it doesn't really matter who you are. You get cheered regardless. Either it be world-class elite racer, runner, or just your usual enthusiast.
Just sucking in those deep breaths
Yep.
there.
42 kilometers later.
Polat Kemboy, the top.
Top Turkish athlete.
That's right.
Kimboy finished in the 6th spot, just out of that Olympic contention time. And when you look at the Olympic contention time, it was 2:11:30. So no one out of the top 5 actually qualified for the Olympics in the men's.
But there will be other opportunities. Obviously,
there
the
will be, yes.
eligibility period running through until next year. As we prepare for some more runners there, hoping to get our way through the winner of the female race.
And what a resilience you can see on the left side. It's all about personal stories, personal journeys.
Another finisher through. We have the wheelchair runner through with the salute to take the win. What a fantastic sight there. Here's the Söylemez as well, finishing up the Turkish male athlete.
Finishing in 8th place.
Getting his medal there as well.
Also with the salute.
Celebrating a race well run and just happy to be part of such an incredible event.
I mean, when you finish top 10 in a race full of people from Ethiopia, Kenya, that should be something to be happy about, especially for Turkish athletes.
Exactly. Here at Tebebu, the leading woman at the moment. See if she can take out the victory here. Hitting 2:15:50 for the 40. Sorry, 2:15:45 for the 40 kilometre mark. So just over just under 2 kilometres left. There's a chance there for an extra little intake of water, a little bit more energy. But I guess they're just running on fumes now, just trying to get their way home.
And if our calculations are right, they probably won't be able to make it to the finish line under the course record.
We see some more male finishers there.
Another Turkish athlete, Mestan Turhan.
Sprinting his way through the end.
Yavuz Ağralı. Finishing with a couple seconds apart.
Celebrating there, collapsing in ecstasy and tired, just pushing themselves to their absolute limit.
With the medical staff on hand, as always.
This is the true test of human athletics as they push themselves to their very end just to get that way, just to get over the mark of 42 kilometres. Obviously, the mythology of the race ended in dire circumstances for that runner as well. So this just shows how difficult this is, how tough they are running, how much they are putting into this, how much training they have put in this, just to head down that final stretch there as the fans mill around, the celebrations start. But for these ones, they're still going. They've still got the best part of a kilometre and a bit to go.
With Hirut Tibebu leading the way for the women.
Yes, the Ethiopian runner just trying to get that final bit over the top.
And on the men's side, we see Evan Skiplaget, if I believe, Azerbaijani runner. looking to finish under 2:18, possibly, as we see him right now.
Here at Tebebu, obviously.
Just over 2:18. Sorry.
Here at Tebebu, obviously setting a personal best. 2:23.35 back in Shanghai 2 years ago. Time this year, best time this year of 2 hours 24 and 5 seconds. Be hoping.
Oh, almost went the wrong way there.
But up the hill, and that's the main thing. Just that last incline to bring her home, to take the women's title. The pace setter there pushing out ahead.
And on the men's side, you have another Turkish athlete, Bekir Karayel, finishing up his race.
Entering the gates there of Gulhane Park. Not much time left on the clock. Just feeling the burn in the legs. That last little incline as some more people finish. The beautiful Hagia Sophia in the background there. The iconic finish, not just for this marathon, but also so famous across the world. That they'll just be running for that moment where they can cross that finish line and consider it a job well done, and $50,000 in the bank.
And here you can see Gulhane Park, one of the more iconic places in this little peninsula in Istanbul.
They might have time afterwards to take a walk through and think about where they won that race, as we see the last climb through, view of what they've seen, of what they've run through, of what they've experienced so far this morning in the last 2 hours and 20 minutes effectively. Here at Tebebu, just trying to get those last few percentages of energy out of the legs, out of the lungs.
And it is definite right now that she has passed last year's mark of 2:18 plus, set by the winner.
Yes, it may not be a course record, but that won't mean any less to her as she crosses that finish line and takes the win for Ethiopia. The top 50 world ranking for women's marathons around the world. Her best ever ranking was 15th.
And now she's set to become a winner.
Second placed is also her countryman, or countrywoman, Abayechu. As we see another finisher here, crossing the line. Taking in some water, feeling that back. It's not a place to start with a sore back. You've got to push through that pain and just get your way through. For Can Hussein, the Turkish runner. Here we go. Here's the finish line. This is what they're all looking for.
The last stretch.
The last stretch through the park. Taking in all the last bits of oxygen that she can. She knows she can do it. She's done it before. Not far off her personal best at the moment. She's just crossing out of the park now. She'll need to push pretty hard if she wants to get there in that last bit, just to get a personal best or a season best even. We're past the course record, but we could see something special for the 24-year-old.
Now you can see her at the end of the line, coming up to a very good finish in terms of how the women have done in today's race.
Still pushing that slight last incline, really just pain in the legs, but knowing exactly what she has to do if she wants to take the Istanbul Marathon in the women's class.
Especially after 30 kilometers of running in a flat surface.
That's it. It'll really take it out of them, that last bit, and that's maybe why we're seeing a couple of people getting over that finish line and really sucking in the deep breaths. The temperature will drop. They'll be frightfully cold after all that exercise, all that running, all that energy expended just to get through to 42 kilometers. And now they're almost there. They can almost taste it. They're just there, seconds away from the win. Hagia Sophia there, looming over the city as per usual. As we see the women's race Getting closer and closer. They're almost into the last bend. The gates will start. Blue Mosque, there's the scene for
Here to Babu.
Bebu to come home. The fans clapping on that final straight. The gated part means that she's getting closer and closer to that finish line. 2:23.13 so far. She'll need to push it. She wants to get her season best. The clap starting from the crowd.
And very close to her personal best, I believe.
That's right. 2:23.35, the personal best. And if she can cross it now, there you go, Talha. We have the women's winner, Hirat Tebebu, the Ethiopian, the winner of the 41st Istanbul Marathon for the females. 2:23.40. Just 5 seconds away from her personal best, but...
And just at 25 years old.
That's right, mate. Season best for her as well. Here we go, second and third place. The battle's still on. Coming home now. We have second, we have third, we have our podium for the women's marathon.
With the second being Tigist Abeyacho, finishing at 2:24.15.
That's right, Maureen Chepkemoi, the Kenyan, with 2:24.16. So nothing to split them, but absolutely delighted with their performances. Hugs and kisses all round. Doing their best to take in the deep breaths. They know how hard they've pushed themselves. Absolutely wrecked after what was a really good pace there from the women's race. Really driving their way through. Some more wheelchair finishes there. Angela Tannoy, the Kenyan, personal best is 2:25.37.
Not going to meet that here, but
not going to meet that here, but still
top 5 finish.
Top 5 finish puts her on track for an Olympic time if she's called upon, as she celebrates getting over the top.
And we haven't mentioned the way the times are calculated is very high tech. Every racer, similar to the Bosphorus swim, has a special kind of chip that every
tied to
time,
their shoelaces, I believe.
Yes, exactly. That every time they pass through specialized mats, they get timed automatically. So no kind of worry of malfunctions or someone not necessarily, doing their work. So all these times you see here right now are on the dot and very reliable, I'd say.
Well, that's right. As the technology of the runners increases, so too does the technology used to time these people down to the smallest margin.
And scenes from today at the start, flags from Palestine, from the East Turkey, I believe, the East Turkestan, in the Chinese region. Thousands of people.
Yep, the start line there. They'll be well on their way. They're having their part of the day as well. Not only is it about the big timers, the big $50,000 winners. We've got all sorts making their way around Istanbul on the roads, over the bridges.
Some doing it for the gram, as you said before, and some
You've got to tell her, you have to.
Maybe we should do it next year.
No, well, yeah.
No?
Maybe I'll see you there. As the last of the, well, no, let's not say the last. They look like they're well into their stride by now.
Some having a little bite to eat.
Keeping their energy levels up as they go through the city. Some dressed in hoodies, some in fancy dress. Everyone enjoying themselves, and that's the main thing. I'm sure running a whole marathon with a flag probably isn't the easiest thing, but I'm sure they're still doing better than I am.
I believe Sofia Shemsu is about to cross the line, as you see on your screen right now.
And as we start to wind down, we're just waiting on our top female runner here. Looks like it's going to be Bushra Nurkoku. Got through the 40-kilometre mark at 2 hours 27:31, so no automatic Olympic qualification, but being the top Turkish runner will not hurt her confidence at all.
Her best result this year was at Hamburg, finishing 13th with a time of 2:35:54. So she may pass her season best today.
That will certainly be pleasing for a job well done so far, as we see more people sort of enjoying their walk. Not quite at the pace we were hoping for. Bit of Istanbul traffic for them there.
But this is for Istanbul people living in Istanbul. This is what you want out of a marathon. You know, good competition, for the race to be heard, you know, all around the world with its elite runners, and for normal people to be able to walk on streets that you normally wouldn't be able to. Someone in wheelchairs, obviously.
Now, with Bushra Nurkoku, the top-rated Turkish runner, we're expecting to see her along with Visalan Jepkesho, the Kenyan, who was spoken of as a potential winner today. Obviously not running her best race. She was 15th at the World Championships a couple of weeks ago in 2 hours 46:38, and considering the weather and the problems they had there, that was something quite significant. She obviously represented Kenya at the 2016 Olympics, but not her race today, whether it be that sort of build-up or that tired aspect of the her running the World Championship may have held her back.
It was just 5 weeks away. I mean, when we spoke of how marathon runners, you know, condition themselves only running 2 big races a year, that one probably took a lot out of her.
Yeah, that's right. It's a gamble that they have to take, or it's also part of the tapering training program. Maybe it's two marathons, 3 marathons this year, and potentially only one before the Olympics next year, with the second potentially being the Olympic marathon in Sapporo, if that's the way it goes for her, if that's the plan. Such a specified way of doing business here that they really play or they really run to their exact planning. It was one of the 37,000 runners on hand today in the major events, let's call it.
The most out of recent years. I mean, last year they saw just over 28,000 people competing, and today they're expecting, like you said, about close to 40,000.
As we wait for the final few elite athletes to cross the line, there's obviously still a fair few to go, but our major ones, we're waiting on the Turkish top winner in the women's. She'll be hoping to cross the line not too far from now. The last sort of few bits and pieces just to get over the line. The timing clock obviously not there at the moment, but they crossed the 40-kilometre mark at 2:27, so just a few minutes off for that last 2 kilometres. It's usually about sort of 8 minutes, let's say 8-9 minutes between that, and 10 minutes to get over that last bit. Obviously the last 2 kilometres being the toughest on those legs, up the hill through the Gulhane Park, around between the Blue Mosque and the Iosphere, as they try and just drive home the last of what they have left to try and get home, to try and, well, effectively take the national title as the only primary major marathon, gold class, gold level IAAF marathon in Turkey.
And when you look on the men's side, who, you know, the 14th St. John finished quite a while ago, about 12 minutes ago. In the top 10, there are 4 Turkish athletes, you know, among Kenyans, Ethiopians, Eastern Africans, which is, I think, as being someone who's Turkish, an incredible feat for a race like that.
Very significant, absolutely. Maybe it's home ground advantage. Maybe it's that ability to push yourself in front of your friends, in front of your family as you try and make your way through the course. Maybe it is that sort of pride of place of where you are trying to bring you home.
As you can see right now, David Chemweno, Kenyan athlete, is just about to cross the line. Coming in.
Really cruising there, just trying to get home, just knowing what it takes to get over that line.
Just about to hit the 2:34 mark.
Another of our pace setters finally crossing the line for a job well done.
He was obviously one of the women's pacemakers, but still, you know, pacemaker or not, doing that.
If you don't want to finish, you don't have to. But obviously we saw in the men's, the pacemaker was the one who took home the money.
Went all the way.
As we see another runner crossing the line in the, or about to cross the line in the colours of Trabzonspor, the one of the major football teams here in Turkey. Fantastic performance here as they make those last few metres home. Everyone happy for them to see them over the line. As the fans start to grow, when the people start to get in here, as their friends and relatives and work colleagues and cousins and uncles and aunts make their way through the final parts of the marathon.
Two hours and 35 seconds. And still no sight of our Turkish potential winner, Büşra Koku.
That final part of the race, obviously the toughest, as we've mentioned. Slight incline, equalising the other parts of the course. There we see our finish list for the men's. Daniel Kipkore-Kib at 2:09.44. As we know, a course record for the pacemaker. At Nafu Zero, Yitiao at Nafu 000, 2:09.57, not his best of the year, but still a performance to remember. Chock full of Kenyans, Turkish, and there's an Ethiopian in number 2. Felix Kumatai unable to retain the title, losing his course record. A bit of a tough day for the Kenyan runner, the 30-year-old who won here last year, but happy to finish the race still in the medal position. Here we go. Another couple of runners making their way home.
And I think that may be Büşra Koku we see there.
Making her way along the cobblestones. She'll start to hear the roar of the crowd as they realise it's one of their own making their way around that cordoned off section. There's a pacemaker just calling it quits. Büşra Koku, the first Turkish woman over the line, making it home. The fans celebrating, hands up. Happy to be here, happy to take the time for the country as she crosses the line in 2:36 and 53 seconds.
What a time.
Takes the last of her energy to get that medal over the shoulders, might weigh her down as she does her best.
Finishing touches on the men's side.
Visaline Jepkesho with so much that we thought about that it could have been her race this year. Obviously not the time, but tired legs. You can tell that time in Doha really took it out of her. She's now making her way slowly but assuredly across the line, across those cobblestones.
And this is going to be a first for her. I mean, outside of major championships, she's finished in top 4 in all of her marathons.
That's right.
This should be something to think about.
But she's finding her way home. Crosses the line there. 2:38.37. Azamat Nuranahov, the Kyrgyzstani runner. As we can see, Jepkesho trying to get in some Red Bull, get a bit of energy, get something to get her over the line. She's really worked for that. A couple of guys just bringing it home. Walking pace is all they can sustain right now. They just need something to get through to the top, get them over the line, get them home. Holding out the hand, looking like he hasn't even raised a sweat.
Tamam, ben halledeceğim abi, ben halledeceğim. Sıkıntı yok.
Another of our female runners really putting in the big strides to finish off this race.
That's another Turkish runner, Tubay Erdal, finishing at around 2:40, 2:40.04.
2:40.04, that's right.
Another one of those Turkish runners in the top 10. That's 2 in the women's side now.
That's a season best as well.
Wow, all right.
2:41 in Hamburg earlier this year.
Still not as much as her personal best in 2:39 at Düsseldorf.
I wouldn't complain if I were her. A great performance day. So we have a couple of the pace setters just doing their best to get over the line, get home after a race well run.
And now we see Yasemin Can Arslan looking like to be 10th in the women's competition.
Yes, her best 2:43.57.
Also in Hamburg.
Also in Hamburg this year. So she may have a new personal best on her hands.
Just those last few hundred meters. You can see all the pain in her face.
So we can see the runners now walking back past where we're sitting now, stretching their legs, pushing their way home.
And there you have it, Yasemin Can Arslan with a time of 2:41.21, being the 10th.
And a personal best for her as well, so she'll be happy with her day out.
Overall, a good day for Turkish athletes.
That's right.
4
Hometown
men,
advantage.
4 men in the top 10, and 3 women.
And there we have the top 10 of the women's race. 2:23.40 the time for Hirat Tebebu. She wins the 41st Vodafone Istanbul Marathon in the women's class. 2 Ethiopians taking out 1 and 2. Kenyans Maureen Chepkemoi and Angela Tune in 3rd and 4th. A few more Ethiopians there, and well, we have some people from Trabzon dancing their way to victory. As we look back on what has been a fantastic race, on a beautiful day in Istanbul, there we have it, the view of what we've all been here to see.
42 kilometers, and you know, this was what it all was for.
Exactly. As we see more runners coming home, everyone has done their part. Those who finished, those who didn't, just taking part was enough for many.
We thank obviously Vodafone for sponsoring the event, the municipality of Istanbul, metropolitan area, and Sport Istanbul for organizing such a big event in short notice. Every year doing their best to give the world arguably one of the best looking races.
Best looking races, absolutely. As we cross 2 continents, more than 100,000 people out on the roads, just enjoying themselves, just wanting to be part of something special.
Now, we'll be looking over for the 42nd marathon for next year, and hopefully we can see another course record on the men's side, and hopefully a little more competition on the women's side. For me, Talha Duman, and my colleague Lachlan Guzeli, thank you for listening, and hope to see you next year.
Arkadaşlar 10 dakikaya ödül töreni başlayacak, bilginiz olsun. 10 dakikaya ödül töreni başlayacak. Falan geldi mi uzunlar?
Tören bizimkilere verilecek. Orayı kaçıracağız. Ya bak. Ne kadar varmış? Soru. Ha? Nerede? Abi bayandan bir şey alsın. Geri kalanı öyle törende hallederim. Tamam yaptırın diyor. Mesut'la konuş diyor. Ya da Mehmet Şirin'e söyle diyor. Sen söyle.
Helal olsun. Bravo.
başlayacağız. Kenyalı atlet. We would like to start off with the winner of the elite athletes in males category, Daniel Kipkoda Kibet. What would you like to say about this marathon? Neler söylemek istersiniz? even though you were the pacemaker, you won the marathon this year. Tavşan atlet olarak koştun. And you also set a course record. Aynı zamanda bir parkur rekoru da gerçekleştirdin. Sesi açabilir miyiz arkadaşlar lütfen?
The course was very nice. I bested the race, and I liked it so much. And I tried to just hang on from that K. That's how I managed to see my colleagues, and I see them they feel so weak at 40K. That's try to push at the last 500 meters. Okay, thanks.
Tamamını duyamadım maalesef. Sesten dolayı duyabildiğim kadarıyla aktaracağım. Daniel'ın görüşleri şu şekildeydi. Gayet iyi bir parkur olduğunu söyledi. Her ne kadar tavşan atlet olarak çıkmış olsa da maratonda tempoyu belirlemeye çalıştığını ve özellikle maratonun son bölümünde yapmış olduğu atakla da maratonu kazanmayı bildiğini söyledi. Şimdi atletlerimizle devam edeceğiz ve Polat Kemboy Arıkan o da 2:12:57 koştu. So Polat, what would you like to say about this year's marathon?
Okay, I'll speak in good English. Please, lütfen. Okay, today I enjoyed the race, and despite this is my second marathon to finish. The first one was Paris, the second one was championship in Doha, but because of weather and condition there, was not able to finish. But I think today was my second marathon to finish, and I hope the weather was good, and I hope to do the best, because this is motivation to me, and my first again to participate in Istanbul Marathon. I've been participating in 15 kilometers. So I am happy to be here, and I am happy for the race. And my condition was okay, despite I didn't prepare well, because it was a short term from Doha up to now. And I was having like 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks to prepare for this. But I'm happy for it. Thank you very much, and see you again. Teşekkürler.
Çok teşekkür ediyoruz Polat'a. Öncelikle teşekkür ederek başlamak istiyorum. Gayet iyi bir yarış çıkardığımı düşünüyorum açıkçası. İspanya sonrasında hazırlanmak için çok fazla zamanım olmadı. Yaklaşık 2-3 haftalık bir hazırlanma dönemin sonrasında İstanbul Maratonu'nu koşmak durumunda kaldım. Bu senede baktığınızda Paris ve İspanya'dan sonra da İstanbul Maratonu'nu koştum. Benim için iyi olduğunu düşünüyorum. Bir kez daha İstanbul Maratonu'nda koşmak benim için tabii ki büyük bir mutluluktu. Bu duyguları paylaştı bizlerle Polat. Şimdi de Büşra Nur Koku'yla devam edeceğiz. Büşra, sen de 2:36:53 koştun. Sen neler söylemek istersin?
Öncelikle ben daha yaşım küçük olarak ikinci maratonum. Zor bir parkurdu. Fakat organizasyonda moraller yüksek, organizasyon süperdi. Yanı sıra çalışmalarımda yardımcı olan Elvan Abelegesse, Sabri Kara, menajerime çok teşekkür ediyorum. Organizasyonda emeği geçenlere de çok teşekkür ediyorum. Kulübüm İstanbul Büyükşehir Belediyesi'ne sonsuz teşekkürlerimi sunuyorum. İnşallah daha iyi yarışlarda, olimpiyat düzeyinde yarışlarda derecelerimizi elde ederiz.
Çok teşekkürler sevgili Büşra. Şimdi de elit atletlerde, kadınlarda birinci olan atletle devam edeceğiz. Hirut Tibebu'yla Etiyopyalı atlet tercümanı vasıtasıyla bizlere duygusunu paylaşacak. So, Hirut Tibebu, congratulations, and what would you like to say about the marathon?
Ben teşekkür ediyorum diyor.
ደስ ብሎኛል። ነገር ግን ሰዓት ነበረ 40
Yani program çok iyiymişti ama 40 kilometreden sonra biraz sıkıntı vardı. Yani rekorda için çok koşuyordum. Ondan sonra biraz yani yavaş oldum diyor.
ነገር ግን በጣም ደስ ብሎኛል ስላሸነፍኩኝ አመሰግናለሁ።
Neyse her şey için çok teşekkür ediyorum diyor.
Biz de kendisine çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Alkışlarla tebrik ediyoruz Etiyopyalı atlet Hirut Tibabu. Vodafone 41. İstanbul Maratonu'nu kadınlar elit atletler arasında ilk sırada tamamladı. Derecesi 2.23.40'tı. Bu bölümde soru varsa eğer hızlı bir soru alabiliriz. Yoksa basın toplantımızı tamamlayacağız ve ödül törenimize geçeceğiz. Peki çok teşekkür ediyoruz değerli basın mensupları katılımınız için bir kez daha. Tüm atletler için şöyle bir kez daha güçlü bir alkış alalım. Elit atletlerde, kadınlarda Etiyopyalı atlet Hirut Tibabu kazandı maratonu. 2.23.40'la erkeklerde Daniel Kipkore Kibet Kenyalı atlet 2.09.44 ile parkur rekoruyla Vodafone 41. İstanbul Maratonu'nu kazandı ve milli atletlerimiz arasında Büşra Nurkoku 2.36.53 koştu ve Polat Kemboy Arıkan'da 2.12.57 ile tamamladı Vodafone 41. İstanbul Maratonu'nu. Çok teşekkür ediyoruz değerli atletlerimize. Thank you very much. Now the press conference is over. Thank you very much for your participation. Son bir kez daha alkışlayalım lütfen. Onlar ayrılırlarken ve ödül töreni için hazırlıklar yaparken. The award ceremony will take place in a moment.
Ne bileyim oğlum işte sorular sormuş. Şey mi? iPhone'dan şey mi? Ha. Bende var da. İşte ben şeydeyim yani. Sultanahmet'teyim. Bilmiyorum ki sporcuları bekliyorum. Bir saat var. Herhalde oldu. Oradan
Sayın İstanbul Büyükşehir Belediye Başkanım, Sayın İzmir Büyükşehir Belediye Başkanımız, Türkiye Atletizm Federasyonumuzun Sayın Başkanı, Yönetim Kurulu üyeleri, Vodafone Türkiye CEO ve değerli yöneticileri, programımızı, ödül törenimizi onurlandıran çok kıymetli basın mensupları, saygıdeğer hanımefendiler, beyefendiler. Muhteşem bir havada, muhteşem bir İstanbul manzarasında, çok şükür hiçbir sıkıntı yaşamadan Vodafone 41. İstanbul Maratonu'nu tamamlamanın mutluluğunu yaşıyoruz. Ve şimdi hak sahiplerine ödüllerini verme zamanı. Ödül törenimizi bu güzel organizasyonumuzun ev sahibi İstanbul Büyükşehir Belediye Başkanımız Sayın Ekrem İmamoğlu Beyefendi'nin konuşmasıyla başlatıyoruz. Sayın Başkanım, sizleri mikrofona davet ediyorum. Lütfen buyurun efendim.
Sayın Vali Yardımcımız, değerli Federasyon Başkanımız ve partnerimiz Vodafone'un kıymetli başkanı, İzmir Büyükşehir Belediye Başkanım, ilçe belediye başkanlarımız var ve çok değerli şampiyonlar burada. İsmail Aktaş, Veli Ballı, Mehmet Yurdadön, bu yarışı başlatan amcamız bizimle çok değerli bir an yaşıyoruz aslında. Çünkü ben nice defalar kendisine çok teşekkür ettim birçok meydanda. Çünkü bu maraton İstanbul'un şu an için en değerli markalarından birisi. İki kıta arasında koşulan en değerli markalarından birisi. Bir parkur rekorunun oluşması bugün beni çok mutlu etti, açık söyleyeyim. Nice iyi insanlar iyi şeyler için koştu bugün. Hep iyi dilekleriyle koştu. On binlerce insan. Burada olamayanlar da onlara bence gönüldaşlık yaptı. Sporun dostluğa, kardeşliğe katkısını hep beraber hissettik. Her yönüyle muazzam bir gündü. Hava çok güzeldi. Bütün koşullar aslında böyle bir güzel günün yaşanmasına imkan tanıdı. Umuyorum ki bu güzellikler, bu sporun yarattığı kardeşlik ruhu, beraberlik ruhu, uluslararası alanda bütün sporcuların katıldığı bu ortam, umuyorum ki bundan sonra ülkemizde var olacak bütün spor müsabakalarında var olsun. Aynı ruhu yaşayalım. Bu manada önümüzdeki yıl maratonla ilgili büyük hedefler koyduk. Renay Bey, hemen başlıyor değil mi kayıtlarımız? Haftaya mı başlıyor? İlk defa bir uygulamayla önümüzdeki yılın maratonunun kayıtlarını hemen başlatıyoruz. Ve hemen önümüzdeki yılın maratonla ilgili sürecine çok ilave değerler katmak adına arkadaşlarım yoğun çalışacaklar. Ve dünya çapında en önemli 3 maratondan biri olma hedefimize hızla yürüyeceğiz. Bu konuda Atletizm Federasyonu Başkanımız bizim en değerli partnerimiz. Kendisine katkılarından dolayı teşekkür ediyorum. Ve bundan sonra çok daha güzel organizasyonları, dünyanın farklı ülkelerinden çok daha geniş katılımlı elit sporcuların içinde olduğu bir maraton sürecini kentimizde var etmek istiyoruz. Tekrar emeği geçen herkese, bütün binlerce insan var, gönüllüler var. Vodafone şirketimizin çok kıymetli çalışma arkadaşları var. Spor AŞ'nin çok kıymetli çalışma arkadaşları var. Federasyonumuzun bize kattığı çok değerli çalışma arkadaşları var. Bütüncül bir süreç yaşadık. Seneye buluşmak dileğiyle hepinizi sevgiyle, saygıyla selamlıyorum.
Evet efendim, şimdi bu güzel İstanbul koşusunda dereceye girenlere ödüllerini takdim ediyoruz. Lütfen kürsümüzü görevli arkadaşlarımız sahnemizden alıyorlar ve 1., 2., 3. sırada olanlara ödüllerini takdim ediyoruz. İstanbul senin, durma koş diyerek bu yıl yüz binlerce insan muhteşem boğaz manzarası eşliğinde bir kıtadan diğerine geçebilmenin mutluluğunu yaşadılar. 2 kategoride toplam hak sahiplerine ödüllerini veriyoruz. Vodafone 41. İstanbul Maratonu Elit Kadınlar kategorisi 3.'sü Maureen Chepkemoi Kenya'dan 2.24.16'lık derecesiyle İstanbul koşusunun 3.'sü oldu. From Kenya, Maureen Chepkemoi. 41. maratonumuzun ikincisi Etiyopya Tigist Abayetçev geliyor 2.24.16'lık derecesiyle. Ve Vodafone 41. İstanbul Maratonu elit kadınlar İstanbul şampiyonu Hirut Tibeyu from Etiyopya. Etiyopya'dan geliyor Hirut Tibeyu 2.23.40'lık derecesiyle. Efendim üçüncüye ödülünü takdim etmek üzere. Kendisi de parkurda performans ortaya koyan ve koşan misafirimiz İzmir Büyükşehir Belediye Başkanı Sayın Tunç Soyer Beyefendi'yi sahnemize davet ediyoruz. Üçüncü ödülünü takdim ediyor. ...2.24.16'lık derecesiyle Kenya'dan katılan Morin Chepkemo'yu Vodafone 41. İstanbul Maratonu elit atlet kadınlarda 3. oluyor ve ödülünü İzmir Büyükşehir Belediye Başkanı Sayın Tunç Soyer'in elinden böylelikle alıyor. Kutluyoruz. Sayın Tunç Soyer'e çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Efendim üçüncünün derecesi 2.24.16 idi. İkincinin derecesi 2.24.15 yani bir salise farkla ikincinin ödülünü takdim etmek üzere ev sahibimizi İstanbul Büyükşehir Belediye Başkanımız Sayın Ekrem İmamoğlu Beyefendi'yi davet ediyoruz. Lütfen buyurun Sayın Başkanım. ...2.24.15'lik derece Tigist Abayetçev Etiyopya'dan ödülünü Büyükşehir Belediye Başkanımızın elinden böylelikle alıyor. Tebrik ediyoruz. Ve şampiyonun ödülünü çok anlamlı bir şekilde vermek istiyoruz. Efendim Sayın Ülker Kutlu aramızda. Ülkemizin ilk olimpiyat koşucusu, ilk maraton koşucusu Sayın Ülker Kutlu. Ve bir diğer maratoncumuz Sayın Keriman Günaydın hanımefendi, sizi de davet ediyoruz efendim. Şeref verir misiniz? Dünyada 3.000, 5.000 ve 10.000 metrede kadınlara hak tanındığında işte bu bayanlar Türkiye'den ilk defa olimpiyat koşmaya, maraton koşmaya hak kazandılar. Efendim yanlarına Sayın Dilek İmamoğlu hanımefendiyi davet ediyoruz lütfen. Birincinin ödülünü her 3 sporcumuz da takdim ediyor böylelikle. Hirut Tibeyu from Etiyopya'dan alıyor. From Ethiopia 2.23.40'lık derecesiyle alkışlıyoruz ve böylelikle Vodafone 41. İstanbul Maratonu elit kadınlar kategorisinde ödüllerimizi tamamlamış oluyoruz. Ülkemizin gururu olan ilk maraton koşucularımız Keriman Hanım ve Ülker Hanım, sizleri de gönül dolusu sevgilerle, saygılarla yerlerinize uğurluyoruz. Alkışlarımız sizler için geliyor. Efendim bu yıl farklı bir heyecan yaşıyoruz. Çünkü parkur rekoru kırıldı. Evet, geçtiğimiz yıl 2.09.57 olan derecemiz bu yıl 2.09.44 olarak gerçekleşti ve İstanbul'u dünyada tanıtan, dünyaca ünlü bir maraton haline getiren derecemiz bu yıl kırılmış oldu. Bayanlar baylar, Vodafone 41. İstanbul Maratonu elit atlet erkekler kategorisi ödül töreni. Üçüncü, Peter Kwemoyi Drobo from Kenya 2.10.09'luk derecesiyle Peter Kwemoyi Drobo geliyor üçüncülük kategorisine. Evet, ikinci sporcu. Gitayel Antapu Zerihun geliyor Etiyopya'dan 2.09.57'lik derecesiyle. Gitayel Antapu Zerihun geliyor from Ethiopia. Ve parkur rekorunun sahibi Daniel Kiproke Kibet geliyor. Kenya'dan gelen sporcuyu alkışlıyoruz. Şampiyon geliyor. The winner is Daniel Kipkore Kibet. Üçüncüye ödülünü takdim etmek üzere Türkiye Atletizm Federasyonu Başkanı Sayın Fatih Çintimar Beyefendi'yi davet ediyoruz. Sayın Başkan buyurun efendim. Böylelikle 3. Peter Kwemoyi Robo Kenya'dan 2.10.09'luk derecesiyle ödülünü Sayın Fatih Çintimar Federasyon Başkanımızın elinden almış oldu. Ve efendim Vodafone 41. İstanbul Maratonu ikincisi ödülünü takdim etmek üzere İstanbul Vali Yardımcımız Sayın Ahmet Önal Beyefendi'yi davet ediyoruz sahnemize. Sayın Valim buyurun efendim. ...2.09.57'lik derecesi geçen yılın derecesiydi. Geçen yıl kazanan sporcumuzun derecesiyle bu yıl ikinciliği elde etmiş oldu. Gitayel Atlapu Zerihun Etiyopya'dan. Sayın Valimize çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Parkur rekorunun sahibi Daniel Kipkore Kibet Etiyopya'dan 2.09.44'lük ödülünü takdim etmek üzere İstanbul Büyükşehir Belediye Başkanımız Sayın Ekrem İmamoğlu Beyefendi'yi, Vodafone CEO'su Sayın Kulman Deegan Beyefendi'yi davet ediyoruz. Buyurun efendim. Spor İstanbul Genel Müdürümüz Sayın Rena Oyunur bu fotoğrafta siz de yer alır mısınız lütfen? Buyurun Sayın Genel Müdürüm. Evet. Siyah kategorilerinde altın kategorisi. İAF kategorisinde İstanbul Maratonumuz altın kategoride koşulan bir maratondur. Platin kategoriye doğru emin adımlarla yürüyen bir maratondur. Elit erkekleri şöyle güçlü bir alkışla önümüzdeki yılda beklediğimizi söyleyelim mi? Çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Şimdi kadın atletlerimizi, kadın elit atletlerimizi de toplu fotoğrafımız için davet ediyoruz. Efendim, Sayın Federasyon Başkanımız, şampiyon sporcularımız aramızda. Lütfen şampiyon sporcularımızı davet ediyoruz. Sayın İzmir Büyükşehir Belediye Başkanımız, lütfeder misiniz efendim sizler de? Protokolümüzü onurlandıran kıymetli isimlerimiz, Gençlik Spor Genel Müdürümüz, belediye başkanlarımız, değerli katılımcılar, Vodafone 41. İstanbul Maratonu ödül törenimizi böylelikle gerçekleştirmiş olduk. Alkışlarımız Vodafone İstanbul Maratonu'na katılan tüm sporcularımız için. Seneye 41. İstanbul Maratonu'nda yeniden buluşuncaya dek hoşça kalın.